Recording in progress.
There he is. We haven't gotten going.
I'll go ahead and open this meeting. Shanice just stepped out to help a family in our parking lot. That was nice of her. So opening this meeting before the board moves into closed session to see if there is any public comment.
I have no comment cards.
No cards. And I don't see anybody in our Zoom audience. So the board will move to closed session and we'll be back at 6 o'clock. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. We appreciate all the people in the audience as we have a special celebration scheduled for two of our very esteemed colleagues. So thank you for being here. Start with just some comments about our public comments. If you would like to make public comments on items not on the agenda, please fill out a card. They're located on the table over there and turn them in at the end of the table. If you're part of our Zoom audience, just raise your Zoom hand and I will call on you. We give 3 minutes for public comments. We also have a number of other interesting items on our agenda, so you're welcome to make public comments during those times also with the same rules. So with that, can I have a roll call, please?
Student trustee Rodriguez Velasquez,
Here.
student trustee Swaminathan,
Here.
trustee Thompson,
Here.
trustee Stevenson,
Here.
trustee Sarver,
Here.
vice president Ginn,
Here.
president Dubois.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you, Laura. Next on our agenda is approval of our agenda. Are there any changes?
Yes, I'd like to suggest to my colleagues that we pull items 14.1 and 15.1. Both of these deal with the conduct of board meetings. And it seemed to me, in deference to the new board members coming in, it would be appropriate for them in those cases to have that discussion and take that action rather than the old board doing the same.
I have no objections.
Everybody's okay with that? All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the
I
agenda?
move approval with amendments proposed by trustee Thompson.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
The number again, the ones that you pulled.
14.1 and 15.1.
14.1, 15.1?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not because I want to get out of here. Thank you, Rich.
Okay, and I do have some things to report out on closed session. Unfortunately, the board had to vote to expel one of our students with a vote of 5 in favor and 0 against. We expelled is case number 2022-2023-2. We also approved 2 settlement agreements by a vote of 5 in favor, 0 against. The board approved the settlement agreement, case number 2022-2023-9. By a vote of 5 in favor, 0 against. The Board of Trustees approved the settlement agreement 2022-23-10. So that is the report out from closed session. We are now on item 7, approval of the consent calendar. And for those of you who don't always watch our board meetings, this is a long list of items that we approve with one motion. And it's usually contracts or things that we have already discussed.
I would like to pull for further discussion item 7.10.
Anything else? No? Okay, thank you.
Second.
Thank you for that. Roll call, please.
Student trustee Rodriguez Velasquez,
Yes.
student trustee Swaminathan,
Yes.
trustee Thompson,
Yes.
trustee Stevenson,
Yes.
trustee Sarver,
Yes.
vice president Ginn,
Yes.
president Dubois.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, item 710.
Okay. So item 710 is the approval of the contract with ABM Building Solutions for mechanical upgrades and air conditioning installation project. Everything I understand about this is a lot of work that was put in by our district staff, led by Crystal Leach, to make sure that the critical not only air conditioning needs across our district would be as rapidly as possible addressed, but that the district would move strongly in the direction of sustainability in improving our carbon footprint, in managing the health and safety of our students and our staff, and make sure that everything was in place, that that work could be launched not only as soon as the bond was passed and certified, but also that the critical work would be done even in the event that we did not get passage of the bond. The result being what we see before us tonight of a contract to be approved to get all of that work going. Ms. Leach, if you would kind of say a little bit about that to the board, I'd really like to make sure that we all have a good sense of what we're being presented with for approval tonight.
Absolutely. Well, I think we are all aware that during usually the fall for us, we experience, where did Edith's over there, experience some very hot classrooms. And although we have air conditioning in some locations across our sites, we do not have air conditioning in several of our classrooms and several of our offices throughout the sites. The equipment that we do have is old, it's aged, it draws a lot of electricity, and it is not efficient. We were trying to mitigate the hot air in the classrooms by looking at temporary solutions that just didn't line up for sustainability and really for feasibility of how we were spending the dollars at a price tag near what it would cost us to put in air conditioning and around the same timeline. So as we were working with ABM on other sustainability measures, we started discussing how we could move forward with installing permanent air conditioning that could also be used during modernization and so forth. So we reduce the amount of waste. We're not wasting money. We're not paying for things twice. So it's a very exciting project that has been very long in the making, as well as long in the waiting for the teachers and staff that do not have air conditioning.
Well, I would say this is something that certainly there is sense in it being on the consent calendar, in that it is something that we have been aware of and that is completely appropriate, and something that the leadership of the district has wanted to see happen. But I also did want to pull it out for this kind of discussion to recognize the innovative work, the hard work that has been done, and the very comprehensive solution that has been reached, where we are avoiding waste, we are avoiding redundancy, we are cutting costs in the long term. We are making our school district not only safer and healthier, but more sustainable with the work that we're doing. And we're doing it on an aggressive, accelerated timeline to bring the relief that we need on all of those fronts as rapidly as possible. And I personally very much want to thank you and the staff for the hard work of making that happen.
This is definitely a project in the making when I think back to 2020, when we started all of our ventilation projects, that we would eventually end up here. And so we're so grateful, obviously, to our community for passing Measure W, and just continuing to make our classrooms more efficient.
So we do have a public comment as well. Edith Salvatore.
I want to be respectful of time and not repeat all of the wonderful things that Trustee Sarver said, though I do want to echo them. Definitely, climate control for our classrooms has been an issue for my entire presidency. I'm in my 12th year now. We've discussed it, and I don't want to say it was sort of a third rail for the district, but nobody, it was always going to cost too much and take too long, and maybe we can look at it next year. And when Crystal came on board, she really said, no, we need to do that if that's something that needs to be done. And then as she accumulated her, credits towards her master's in HVAC during the pandemic, she also added the need to make sure that we have good ventilation so that our classrooms are, as you said, healthy and comfortable. And also reminding us that there are going to be times throughout the next many decades that we need to shut our rooms to the outside world because we have smoke days and we want to keep the particulates out. And then we need updated HVAC in order to be able to do that and still breathe in our classrooms. So our members are really, really grateful that this was included in the bond, but more than that, that it wasn't included as an afterthought for just the new rooms, that we can really bring equity to all of our classrooms so that it's not some students who have the benefit of air conditioning in the afternoon while others are suffering and unable to focus. So we really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your comment. So I think now I'm ready for a motion.
I do check. I notice there is one hand up among the attendees.
Okay. Rebecca Perlman, did you want to speak on this item?
Unmute. Oh, here we go. Can you hear me? Anyway, I just want to say thank you to Crystal Leach, and I want to emphasize that the urgency of getting air conditioning, as I had a student pass out about 2 months ago in a 6-period class. And most of us, as we get older, we're pretty good about hydrating, but teenagers are not. And it's really not just about being comfortable, it's about being safe. So I really appreciate everybody's hard work. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, now we're ready for.
With that, I move approval of this item.
Thank you.
I second it.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, now for the very special recognition, I will turn it over to our superintendent, Dr. Williams.
Good evening, everyone. We are so excited this evening. We have the opportunity to recognize some very, very important individuals to Sequoia Union High School District. Over this past year and a half, we've gone through superintendent recognition, and we had an opportunity to highlight all of the wonderful talent that we have throughout the district. And that talent is able to succeed and to focus on children due to the support and vision and direction given by two very important people along with the board. And they've been a part of the board for some time now. I won't say how many years yet. But in recognition, we have something special for both of you. Our two board members who are outgoing. And so it is with sincere gratitude and appreciation, the Sequoia Union High School District will be saying good luck, goodbye, and then hello again, because we know you will come back, to trustees Alan Sarver and Chris Thompson. at the conclusion of our meeting today. We are thankful for the 13 years both trustees have served. And they're all individual, right? So recognition, Alan Sarver, trustee Sarver, has been a trailblazer board member since his arrival on the board of trustees in 2009. As an advocate for students and staff, his passion and love for public education has always shined bright through his effective decision-making and the articulate feedback he provides. Also, he's a grammarian. Trustee Sarver always wants to ensure the community is being supported by Sequoia Union High School District. Therefore, he strives to attend as many events as possible and builds relationships with members of our community. In addition, as a lifelong learner, he understands that being well prepared significantly impacts success for all. Trustee Sarver is constantly researching and learning and is always well prepared for in-depth conversations regarding every single agenda item presented during each board meeting. His presence, feedback, and guidance are deeply appreciated and valued by all. Trustee Sarver, we cannot thank you enough and express our appreciation for your 13 years of service. Your presence and leadership will be missed, yet we know you'll be back as a concerned citizen, and we wish you all the best in the future. With that, I'd like to just have us all just acknowledge with a hand clap, if that's allowed, with a hand clap and applause, the service, 13 years of service. May I direct your attention to our screens?
One of the things I value as a person, not as a trustee, is taking responsibility. Made a mistake, or whether you misinterpreted something, or do something, I really honor and respect folks who take responsibility.
You know, all board members come to board meetings, but Alan Sarver, he reads all
One of the things I value as a person, not as a trustee, is taking responsibility. Whether you've made a mistake or whether you misinterpreted something or a blind spot or you forgot to do something, I really honor and respect folks who take responsibility.
You know, all board members come prepared to board meetings, but Alan Sarver, he comes extra prepared. He reads all the material and he comes ready with notes. All board members attend school functions, but none attend more than Alan Sarver.
Trustee Sarver is the board member who is always there with the lightheartedness and the laughter, and we can always count on him to give us recommendations for productions at schools or sports teams, and we always see him engaged in the community.
Alan is passionate about public education. He works really hard and he loves the Sequoia Union High School District.
So Trustee Sarver is awesome. And when I came to the district as superintendent, my first year, he was like a guide. And for me, moving from Southern California to Northern California, which was huge, he made sure that I was okay, not only in a sense of being his employee, but also just as a person. And I think the time that he took and the care that he took to make sure that I was adjusting well was what was needed in order to help me smoothly transition into my new role as superintendent.
Alan Sarver brings passion to his board member comments like no other, and especially when he's talking about district initiatives. Just like to thank Alan for the many years of dedicated service that he's given to the Sequoia Union High School District.
I would like to tell Trustee Sarver the same thing. One, thank you so much for being who you are and being your authentic self. Also, a similar message that I sent to Trustee Thompson. We have given you the gift of time. So that means as a concerned citizen, you have so much more time to spend with us in terms of serving on committees, giving us feedback in ways that you weren't able to do as a trustee. So I look forward to that. And also be kind to yourself, take care of yourself, enjoy your family, and continue to love this great district. Thank you. Fun fact, Alan Sarver earned a BA in sociology and his teaching credential from UC San Diego in 1976, then worked as an elementary school teacher. He later entered a high-tech career, leading projects and developing software products for local and global use, and retired as a director of project management at Oracle Corporation in 2002. Alan has served as a trustee for Sequoia Union High School again since 2009 and continues to run the Music Mentor Program at Carlmont High School and the Belmont Redwood Shore School District. In addition, he also chairs the Save the Music Festival in Belmont. Alan lives in Belmont with his wife, Emily. Their daughter, Ariel, is a high school English teacher in the Campbell Union High School District, and their daughter, Hannah, is a software engineer at Apple. Both daughters are graduates of none other than Carlmont High School. Thank you, Alan. Trustee Thompson has also been a trailblazing member of the high school district since his arrival to the board again in 2009. Trustee Thompson is a strategic thinker whose passion and excitement for secondary education are apparent through his critical thinking and focus on solution-based decision-making. His ability to ask strategic questions and think outside the box is incredible. His focus on the support and development of students and staff is unwavering. Trustee Thompson's intellect, dedication, and support to Sequoia Union High School District's community will always be valued, appreciated, and greatly missed. Trustee Thompson, thank you for your 13 years of service. Your presence and leadership will be missed, and we wish you all the best in the future. Fun facts. Trustee Thompson has been the executive director of Stanford University Institute for Research in the Social Sciences since its founding year in 2004. The Institute is the home to research centers on poverty and inequality, immigration, democracy, philanthropy, and civil society and other domains where social science can have an impact on global change. Prior to that, Trustee Thompson was appointed by the Stanford Provost to be the director of the President's Commission on Technology, Teaching, and Learning. In this role, from 1995 to 2000, he provided an institutional plan focused on understanding how technology should serve the core mission of the university. He continued his work on educational technology during his sabbatical, leave in 1999, receiving his first appointment as a TANS visiting professor at the University in Netherlands. In addition to institutional planning efforts, Trustee Thompson is widely recognized within the Stanford community for the decade he served as director of Stanford Sierra Camp. Though it was many years ago, he left Stanford briefly during 2000 to 2003 to head a biotech startup where he was co-founder and president. Chris Thompson joined the Sequoia Union High School District Board of Trustees and hasn't looked back since. Once again, we thank you for your service, and we have a surprise for you too. All right.
He comes in with a very strategic mind. He thinks about overseeing and really directing and really working in partnership with the leadership that we have here at the school so that we can support them in order to support our students.
Chris and I both share a wonky interest in school board campaigns and local elections. We also both enjoy getting out for bike rides, which is a nice way to chat, have a conversation, while also getting some exercise.
I think he's a great intellect, right? I think people who know him believe that he brings a lot to the board conversation.
Chris Thompson has a special knack for asking just the right question at just the right time. Sometimes the board can get overly detailed in some discussions, and he always knows how to bring us back to the governance level. That will be missed.
He always makes efforts to understand every issue from each perspective and side, and he asks questions very deliberately, which is really great to see the amazing work that's being done here.
He's an incredible mind as a person, a critical thinker, one who seeks to solve conflict, one who seeks to think about the unimaginable when it comes to our school district and also supporting our students and staff members.
What I will miss and still appreciate about Trustee Thompson is his invitation to be at the table authentically, the invitation to solicit my voice and my ideas.
I really want to thank Trustee Thompson for his time on the board and commitment to asking the right questions and undeniable dedication to the position.
I'd like to recognize and thank Chris for the many years of dedicated service that he's given to public education and the Sequoia Union High School District.
You have given us the gift of time, and now we give it back to you. And so for that, you have earned it. We are grateful. Have some fun, but don't forget about us.
I wish you many happy travels. Now you can take your vacations at any time during the year. It doesn't have to be just July.
Both trustees have accomplished much during their time on our board. Most notable accomplishments would be the realignment of attendance boundaries to provide a true neighborhood high school for all students, successful passage and administration of the Measure A bond, resulting in additional classroom space, modernization, and critical new facilities across the district. The establishment of Tide Academy with its first graduating class next spring. We'll see you both there. Complete rebuilding and reimagining of Redwood High School, early implementation of ethnic studies as a graduation requirement, broadening and increasing participation in AP and IB classes with improved GPA and test percentage rates, growth and continuous improvement of career pathways across the district. We send best wishes and many thanks to Alan and Chris, trustees, for their hard work, countless hours, sound decision-making, and guidance for the past 13 years. They both will be greatly missed. Almost. And if you both will come forward. As always, the certificate of recognition is supported with the United District Board of Trustees. Trustee Chris Thompson, and staff in this and reflection of a certificate of recognition is supported in the High School District Board of Trustees. Proudly recognizing Trustee Alan Sauber with your committed and dedicated service and supporting the importance of that and the district of Sequoia Union High School District for the last 2 years. And congratulations to you for the equal year. And to you as well, a grand gesture of appreciation. Thank you so much.
And there is more. So there's more special recognition for these two. Should I turn?
So we are proud to have Joan Dentler from Senator Josh Becker's office with the presentation for both trustees. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Williams and President Dubois. Good evening, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here this evening to honor these two outstanding board members. We knew this day was coming. I've had the pleasure of working with both of these gentlemen for the past 9 years in my role as a legislative field representative for first Senator Jerry Hill and now Senator Josh Becker. The senator asked me to be here this evening on his behalf. He's traveling and can't be here, but he sends his best wishes. And in a moment, I will present what the state legislature has prepared for you. But he did ask me to relay, his particular thanks in the work that you both have done in the past 2 years during some of the darkest days in public education in the state of California. And guiding our high school district through the pandemic and bringing it back stronger than ever was something that can't be said of all districts across the state and certainly across the country. So it's a special testament to your commitment to our students and to the community at large. And that's another point that the senator asked me to make, is that the work that you two have done here, it doesn't just touch this high school district. It goes well beyond its boundaries and throughout the Bay Area, in fact. And obviously, folks have taken note in Sacramento. Therefore, I will not read this entire resolution, but I will read the highlights. But before I do that, on a personal level, as a staff member, and someone who works day in and day out with our school districts, I want to thank both of you for making my job, and my colleague Antonio Lopez is here this evening, making our jobs so much, easy is not the right word, but understand, you helped us understand, and you guided us through. And anytime I would see one of you at an event, I knew we were in good hands. We'd have good questions, hard questions asked of us, Alan Sarver. But important questions, from California School Board Association meetings to community coffees, you name it. There are a variety of events where you two would be there and help direct us and help guide our state legislators. So I'm not just here representing Senator Becker. I'm also here on behalf of Assemblymember Mark Berman and Assemblymember / Congressman Kevin Mullen, who couldn't be here this evening either. So on behalf of them, I will read just the sort of the highlight at the end of this, and then you can take it home and read the rest of it. As a result of I will go with the plural since this is directed at both of you. As the result of their tireless efforts and unwavering commitment to the students of Sequoia Union High School District, Alan Sarver and Chris Thompson have succeeded in compiling an illustrious record of career and civic achievements, a record that has earned for them the admiration and respect of those persons who have had the privilege of associating with them. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Assembly members Kevin Mullen and Mark Berman and Senator Josh Becker that they take great pleasure in honoring Alan and Chris for their outstanding record of leadership and service as members of the Board of Trustees of the Sequoia Union High School District, and for their myriad of efforts toward the enhancement of public education throughout the state of California, and extend sincere best wishes for their continued success in all of your future endeavors. And it is signed by all 3 members of the San Mateo County delegation. So congratulations, and we will certainly miss you both.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful.
My friend.
You're gonna hold on to this.
Oh, yeah.
Please do. Can we get a picture?
Sorry, I'm not the senator.
We're not. Exactly.
Okay, and so we have another special thing. Let's clap first. So the next special item for a special recognition was sent to me this week by one of the most eloquent writers in our area. His name is Alan Weiner. He's a former trustee. He really wanted to be here, but he's traveling, so he asked me to read this. So, message of appreciation for Alan Sarver and Chris Thompson at their final Sequoia Union High School District board meeting. I had hoped to be able to attend tonight's board meeting in person to convey my deep appreciation for the service that both Alan Sarver and Chris Thompson have given to the Sequoia Union High School District, each for more than a decade, but I am traveling for work and cannot be there tonight. Mindful of the rules about the time limits of public comment, I will keep my farewell message brief, which means it will be inadequate recognition of their contribution and achievements. Alan and Chris were both incumbents on the board when I arrived as a new board member in 2011, and they served then and for the next 9 years as models of exemplary board service. Both Alan and Chris were always fully prepared during our meetings, notwithstanding the thickness of the board packages we received, ready to ask questions about even detailed points if they were important. They were always incredibly attentive to the information conveyed during board meetings, whether it was information offered by members of the school community, presentations by staff, or views expressed by their fellow board members. Chris and Ellen also both gave liberally of their time to participate in Sequoia Union High School District activities outside of our regular board meetings, whether it was to serve on a board committee, on career and technical education, the district's budget committee, to meet with site leaders, or to attend the Sequoia Woodside football game under the Friday night lights. During our board meetings, Ellen and Chris always demonstrated the ability to ask the most important questions behind the information presented to the board. They conveyed their own views thoughtfully, with conviction, but always in a measured and respectful manner. They always were critical in helping to transition to the board to a more data-driven approach to evaluating our progress, so that we could more critically assess what was working and what was not. And although they were supportive of staff, they were always simultaneously demanding and assessing the achievement of our district in meeting our policy goals. They helped contribute to the creation of a culture of high expectations in our district. Chris and Ellen each, of course, made their mark in individual ways, reflecting their individual strengths. Ellen's comments during our board meetings were always incredibly thoughtful and thorough, reflecting his deeply deliberative approach to decision-making. Chris had a unique ability to reflect constantly on the role of the board, on our theory of change, and to reflect constantly on how the board might effectively serve the district, its leadership, teachers, other staff members, and above all, the community as a whole. Above all, both Ellen and Chris shared a deep commitment to the notion that the board's effort should constantly be focused on doing what is best for children in our school district. I was honored to serve on the board with Chris and Ellen for 9 years, and I wish to publicly thank them for giving so much of their time, energy, passion, brilliance, and wisdom to the Sequoia Union High School District. The children who come through our district had a better experience in our schools, and our community is better off for your service. Thank you and congratulations on a job well done. So the next and last special part of this meeting is to see if anybody, I'll do this like a funeral, if anybody in the audience wants to go to the podium, because I think there's a couple people trying to get out of their seats. So you're welcome to say a few words.
Been over 5 years since I've been in this room.
Are you out of practice?
Yes, especially from this vantage point. I always had the other vantage point, but anyway, I'm Jim Leonidas, the former superintendent of the high school district, and I was one of a few people in this room that was here in 2009 when both of you got elected. At that time, my role was assistant superintendent of administrative services, and then it was not too long afterwards where two of you, along with the 3 other board members, had to make a big decision. And I came out on the fortunate, either the small thing or however it was, but anyway, the fortunate side. And we worked together very, very well for the 7 years that I was superintendent of the district. We faced numerous challenges. We mentioned about the boundary changes and passing Measure A, and those were 2 very big things that actually had to, happen in concert with each other to make it all work. And your support and contribution, sitting through and helping to meet with audiences and communities, all of that made that very, very possible, because it was a very big idea at the time. And really want to thank you for those years and working together. And I wish you both the very, very best in the future. And I know that you're people that will stay very active, and I think they're already trying to recruit you guys back in some capacity, and be like me and work hard and try to keep a little distance. But anyway, the community really thanks you for your role in this district over 13 years and all of the changes that you guys have seen. And you hand off the district in good shape, and that's the greatest honor to have. So again, thank you very much for the support you gave me during my time. Thank you.
Good to have our former superintendent go because he is a perfect example of what I'm about to expect from the two of you. If you do come back, as with all retirees, you must come back looking at least 10 years younger than you did when you left. I don't know how it happens, but it happens with everyone. And see, that's how you stay looking young, is you just leave when you're done. I have been, this is my 12th year as president of SDTA, and before that I had 3 years as vice president. So I have been at this podium as long as Alan and Chris have been in those seats. Or actually, I think you've sat in all of the seats across the dais, except maybe the one that Shawnice is in over there. And we have definitely not agreed at all times, but I think that over the course of those 15 years, we've definitely come to a lot of joint understandings. And we have always been fighting for the same goal, which is the best possible education for our students in the community and, you know, the best possible experience for the people who work here and who go to school here. And so I credit and thank you for your contributions, most of all your dedication. You know, you don't have to be a school board member. I remember asking my father once when I was in high school why he was on all these committees and why he went to all these meetings. Because I said to him, like, you already got into college, right? Like, what are you building a resume for? And he told me, this is what you do if you want things to get better, you get involved. And so thank you for getting involved.
I've told you both this already, but I already miss you. Alan, you have been a full-time board member for this district. The number of hours that you give every week are beyond measure. You walk your talk. You care so deeply about all of the students and all of the staff and all of the people who send them to school and love them so much. You have taken years off my life with your end of board meeting comments to completely empty rooms, but you have given far more years back in all of your support and assumption of the best and working for positive outcomes for everyone, and you will be dearly missed. Chris, the first time I met you, we disagreed. And you were running for the board and we didn't see eye to eye on a topic. You were at Sequoia High School and we were in my office, and it was such an enjoyable hour. And I just left, you left, and I was in awe and so hopeful that you would win the seat that you are now in. And your intellect, coupled with your intense compassion, your fairness, and all the banter that we've enjoyed, your friendship, what your wife has chosen to do with her life. I think you guys are an incredible model, and I will dearly, dearly miss that. To both of you, literally after 13 years, tens of thousands of young people in our community walk by you, and they don't know that their lives are better because you believed all of them could meet high expectations. And you believed all of them deserve the very best that we could give them. And I hope you carry that with you for the rest of your lives and enjoy these post-COVID, post-board years. Well done.
Tina's going to speak first, so we're going to leave it right.
So I would also like to talk about the first time I met both of you. Chris, you may or may not even remember this because this was a very long time ago. The wonderful thing about both of you is that you were in my classroom a lot. And so the very first time I met you, I didn't even realize as a teacher that you were our new board member. and that you were coming to watch me teach with the group of people who were coming to watch me teach. And I walked in after lunch to my classroom, and there was a gentleman looking at the back wall in my classroom. And I said, "Pops, what are you doing here?" And you turned around and you're like, "I am not your father." And I thought, oh boy. And then Alan leaned over to me and said, "New board member." So you did not hold that against me, and in fact came back to my class many times over the years. And then as I became an administrator and participated more with board and in board meetings, I got to really see your passion come out. So not only did I feel you as a classroom and your presence in the classroom and how much you cared about the teachers and the staff and the students, but then I also got to see your passion. So thank you. Alan, you and I have also a little bit of a special relationship. You trusted me with teaching your children. Thank you very much. And then when I did make that difficult decision that I wanted to leave the classroom and become join the dark side. Sorry, no offense to administrators in the room. You asked to have a meeting with me. You said, "Can I take you to lunch?" And I went, "Okay, sure." What did I do? And the meeting was wonderful, and you mapped out this entire vision you had for how CTE can go for the whole county, and how your vision included how I could help with CTE spreading through the whole county. Because I went from Carlmont to San Mateo County Office of Education. And I remember leaving that meeting thinking, oh my God, this man has wonderful vision. And oh my God, can I possibly live up to his vision? Right? So I tried to meet up to your vision, but it's a huge kudos to you at just the way you view education, the way you push educators, and the way you continue to fight. Similarly, when I decided I could not stand not being at a school site with all the buzz and the hum of students, and I transitioned back to Tide, you also reached out to me and said, "Can we meet and discuss this?" So I was a little more prepared for our second meeting in this regards, and you talked a lot about your vision for Tide, how it's going, and how CTE and how I could continue to push CTE at that district level. And so once again, I was reminded and honored with just your amazing vision for the district, your amazing dedication to CTE and all things education. And for that, I thank you.
I want to thank you both. You have been on the board during my entire tenure as an administrator in this district. And I'll never forget my first time addressing the board as principal of Menlo Atherton, presenting our site plan and being completely nervous. But looking and just seeing the eye contact and the reassurance from both of you. And I was prepared because I knew I would get some tough questions. And definitely look back on that and have evolved over the years. I even look back and laugh at myself at that, right? When I was told, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. It was a little daunting. So I thank you for the support in that role, and also in the roles transitioning to Tide, which has been very exciting. And just always your insight, your thought in discussing things that are important to move student progress forward. Really appreciate that. And Chris, thank you. I remember when Sean, Ralph, and I were in the Stanford Principal Fellows, and we would see you because your office was there. You were very supportive of the program and what we were doing there as well. And Alan, I don't know of another board member who would run alongside a principal at a championship football game, rooting on the team to make it to the state championship. So thank you both for all of your dedication and support.
Okay, so now is our, one more comment, and then this will be our last one.
So I actually met both Chris and Alan 2.5 years ago on Zoom when I logged onto the board meeting because my friend said that something called the school board was considering getting rid of our grades. So, even right from the start, when I met Alan and Chris, I didn't always see eye to eye on them on a lot of issues. But when I was a student trustee, I couldn't have been more grateful for all the support and growth that they gave to me, whether it was talking to me and explaining district policies or giving me advice about college or, my future job prospects. And I couldn't be more grateful. I'm sure, Chris didn't expect to hear from me so soon after I stopped being the student trustee. But, from the beginning, when I told him in May that I was interested in running, he was nothing but supportive and really helped me throughout these past couple of months. I learned so much from him, and I'm really grateful and honored to be taking over his seat. And I couldn't be more grateful for all the help he's provided me. So thank you so much for all your help and service.
Okay, so now is our last special item. We have cake. So we're going to take a break for, pardon me?
Carrie, may Alan and I have a chance to respond to this?
Huh? Oh, you
May
want to
we
talk? Go ahead.
respond? Alan, do you want to go first or second? Okay. Look, I'm going to come up to the podium because Alan and I have to get used to presenting as in public comments. We'll get used to filling out the card. It's going to take a while for us to get used to the 3-minute clock, and please don't put it on. But we'll script things. And I scripted things today, so I can be a little shorter. I realize the program has gone on a long time. I think Alan and I have loved it more than you all have, conceivably. Carrie asked before the meeting started whether I sort of recognized whether we were retiring. And I said, no, and it really wasn't until I listened to Bonnie when it struck, and I need to take a big, deep breath. So 13 years ago, Alan and I competed against one another for the school board race. The newspapers pitted us one against the other on issues that Bonnie is aware of, and there were 6 others in this race. In spite of the battle, Alan and I quickly realized that we shared the same vision for Sequoia and deep commitment to public education. Like so many of us in the room, we fundamentally believe education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. That's a quote from somebody else, and you get 10 bonus points if you can identify that to me later on. So Alan, there's been no better partner in this journey. No one I admire more as a school board member than you. No one who has done more for Sequoia. No better colleague. I'm grateful that our friendship will continue past our board service. Now, Alan and I on occasion have different on our policy preferences, but it's been pretty rare. It's only in one area related to public speaking where Alan and I differ, and that is, and this is going to be for you to fill in the blank. I believe that less is more. Alan believes more is more, right? Hopefully you can do that with friends who you just complimented beforehand. Sticking with the more is less approach, I want to say just 2 things, a word of thanks and a word of hope. Here's my thanks. Thanks, of course, first to Carol. Since we've gone on a long time, I'm not going to I'll share a story with you afterwards related to that and what we owe to our spouses. But I recognize among the 2 greatest blessings in my life are a great education and a supportive, loving spouse. Thank you, Carol. Thanks to Joan for being here. It's been great to work with you. Also shared with our state senator, and note to him and want you to be aware of, I think Josh has surpassed my high expectations for what a state senator can do for the community. Really has been great. And I salute you because it's been really great working for you. Also want to thank Jim Leonides, who left. I guess, is he around still? He's not here, so I'm not going to thank him. To my board colleagues, from whom I've learned so much, thank you. And thanks to the district leadership team, and especially to those with whom we've worked so closely, to Laura, to Crystal, to Bonnie, to Dr. Williams, To spend Wednesday evenings with such a wonderful community of educators is a gift. It's a learning opportunity every day. It's an inspiration. Now I want to confess to a bias I have, a bias towards enjoying working with former English teachers and sometimes former philosophy grads who become principals. Because not only are they wise and analytically smart and articulate, but also from time to time, they share these great quotes from literature. So it seems so appropriate that I should share one with you all. It's just 11 words that describe my experience as a board member. This is a book that's often taught in high school. It's found in the canon of literature of the American West, and I'm a big fan of that. It's Willa Cather and My Antonia, who writes, "That is happiness to be dissolved into something complete and great." Dissolved into something complete and great. I cannot imagine anything greater than work with really smart people who share a fundamental belief in public education. It's also my hope for the board that you all have the chance to realize the joy of being dissolved into something complete and great. So as I step away from the role as board member, I also want to be a little more specific in my hope for the district and for my colleagues on the board. Sequoia's mission is to engage and prepare all students to excel in a global society. Sequoia did a wonderful job of that for Carol's and my two sons. We also have another great example in Sothic of what Sequoia did for him. And there are literally thousands and thousands of these Sequoia success stories. But as the SBAC report is going to evidence for us this evening, we do some things very well at Sequoia. We've made progress in certain areas, but there are still critical challenges ahead. Here, I think the words of FDR are apt. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much, it is whether we provide enough for those who have too little. And repeat, it's not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much, but whether we provide enough for those who have too little. What gives me hope now more than ever is that alongside a superb teaching staff throughout Sequoia, we have a leadership team in Edith from the SDTA, our principals in Todd, in Liz, in Crystal, in Bonnie, and most importantly, in our superintendent, Dr. Williams, that is better qualified than ever before to take on the challenge of providing an excellent education for all. Of all the achievements during my time on the board, the one of which I am most pleased, the one that gives me the greatest hope for this district, is that we have a rare superintendent and cabinet who can move this district forward on our toughest challenges. So my hopes for the board are quite simple. One is that you come together to work as a team, and two, that you respect and appreciate the professional excellence of that staff. If you can't do that, the district will not move forward. If you can, there is great reason to be hopeful about serving all the students of our community. Thank you for this opportunity to serve the school district.
So for 13 years, this district has been afflicted with listening to me talk too much. I went out for one of my Wednesday morning walks for about 3.5 hours this morning and had the opportunity to think through and rehearse a whole bunch of different kinds of speeches that I might give this evening. And first off, I want to thank Chris Thompson for saying most of the meat of anything I could have come up with. when he talks about the ways that we think similarly and we work together well, it's reflected in how clearly he went straight to the heart of what has been great about the experience in this district and what is great and critical to look forward to as the district continues in the post-Thompson-Sarver era. And so really what I want to focus on more briefly this evening is in thanks. And there are 3 or 4 areas I want to turn my thanks. And first of all, it is to those 2 extraordinary women at the back of the room. As Chris has been supported and inspired by his wife, Carol, I have been supported and inspired endlessly by my wife, Emily. Most of the work in education I've tried to do over the past 20 years has been barely trying to race behind her and keep up in some tiny measure with the commitment and hard work and incredible benefit she has brought to students, the schools, educational leaders. She had trouble carving out time this evening to be here around the vast mountain of PTA responsibility she has, as she's currently holding down about 3 jobs at the county level because the work needs to be done, and that's how this woman operates. And this has inspired me at all times to just do my bit to not let the family down with what a fabulous model I live with all the time. The second thanks I really want to give is to the phenomenal community that has given me the opportunity to serve in this way for the past 13 years by electing me on 3 separate occasions for 4 years, sometimes 5 if you get lucky. And for continuing to support the operation of the district, not only with high property values that make this be a well-funded district within the California model. Never enough, never nearly enough, but so much better than what so many other districts have to struggle to get by with, and gives us a chance to fund and resource and support the kind of greatness that we know all of our students and our staff deserve and need. Also, to support so convincingly, again and again, the bond measures that have allowed us to move our facilities forward in the district in a way that matches the educational vision and really lets us provide an environment in which our students and our staff can thrive and can achieve more greatly all the time. And most importantly of all, thanks to this community for continuing to entrust us with the care of your children, your most precious, precious life possessions, for the 4 years that we help shape their future. It gives all of us the work that resounds within us as the holy guiding light of why we get up out of bed in the morning and go do what we do. And then finally, I want to thank the district for giving me this place to spend this time for the last 13 years, to work with a district whose culture is so clearly student-centered, is so profoundly and strategically aimed at all times at delivering the greatest quality of opportunity, the appropriate supports, and the highest rigorous standards and expectations to ensure that our students move forward. A district whose people are bought into that so deeply and so greatly, and where we have been so effective at continuing to bring on board brilliant educators who are not only great at the work that they do in the classrooms, on the sites, but are deeply philosophically and strategically committed to the betterment of the enterprise, the improvement of student outcomes continuously, taking on the big challenges, doing the hard work, holding themselves accountable to very high standards to make sure that the district is always delivering quality and a quality opportunity for a great future to our students and to the entire community that we support. There's been very few times where the functioning of our board has felt like a period of conflict. It has been a matter of working out the details of how we can pull together as a team to keep making that future brighter and better, and continuing to see each step of the way be successful. Talk tonight about thousands of students passing before us. And one of the great privileges that comes to you as a board member is that every year in the spring, you get to attend this flock of graduation ceremonies, and for a few hours, let your ego take this little bath of saying, gee, look at all the good stuff I did. It's not true. There's not a bit of it true. You've got students who have dedicated 13 years of their lives to prepare themselves academically to take those steps across that stage. You have got this huge range of educators who have spent their professional lives preparing a school environment and each of those students for that success. Just to be able to join in on this enterprise and have that sense of contribution and support and that pride of all the good that is done has been such great compensation beyond any measure of work put in over the last 13 years. And so to all of you within this district who have attended this district, who pay the taxes and support this district, thank you for the privilege and the opportunity.
Okay, so now we will. Thank you both for your very beautiful remarks. So we're going to break for cake, and we'll spend, someone said 5 minutes. I wonder if that's a little too rushed. They're saying yes. Is that a little too rushed? It's not too rushed. It's rushed for you guys probably. 5 minutes. So you're welcome to leave after you get your cake, or you can stick around and eat your cake and observe the rest of our board meeting. I know some of you have to be here, so we'll try to move the rest of the agenda along. Thank you. So thank you, everyone. Everyone back. All right. So if you've lost track of where we are in our agenda, we are now, nope, we're on item 9. So student trustee comments are next. Thank you.
Hello, hello. I want to give a huge
Thank you to Trustee Sarver and Trustee Thompson for their service in the district. Thank you so much for your hard work and dedication to this district and its students. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so hello, everyone else. Ugh. I hope you've been staying healthy and warm. Today, I wanted to talk about flu season, people getting sick, and how that's affecting attendance. A student brought her concern to me today about that kids are feeling stressed about school and aren't staying home when they notice signs of sickness. Maybe they feel like they can't leave because they can't afford to miss a math test or some other assignment that would be difficult to make up. And I know this feeling as well. However, people might come to school sick when they aren't well, which could get others sick and then obviously prolong their sickness if they end up going home and when they're a lot sicker. I think providing some clarity on protocol for students or who may need to miss school will be helpful so they know that they can prioritize their health and as a result, prioritize school and how they can succeed in class. So thank you for listening. I hope this perspective provides some insight in how students are feeling this flu season. Yeah.
Hello, good evening, everyone. We have a larger audience today. We made it. It's finally the home stretch of the year. I'm so excited. Our third SAC meeting takes place next week, and we want to continue our conversation on communication with students, and I would personally like to gather some intel on mental health, possibly operationalizing what mental health and wellness is from the student perspective. At Middle College, our new mental health counselor talked to my classmates and I about stress and the spectrum from stress to anxiety. During this time of the year, it can be especially difficult for students to get through all of their finals and for seniors finishing up their applications. I was reminded that self-forgiveness, self-care, and patience is imperative in coping with stress and facing our overwhelming calendars. As the year concludes and Avantika and I reflect on what we've learned this past semester, we've realized that, we've been working to navigate the intricacies of advocacy and strategies for communicating with our student body. We are excited to jump into the next year with a little bit more courage and a lot more knowledge. The atmosphere of school this year is unlike anything. Students and teachers have come together to consider one another with respect and compassion. In my government class at Middle College, we have been working on a semester-long action group project. We got into groups of 3 or 4, and we go out into the community and just be humans of action. My group and I created an organization called Bookshelf for Success, and over the semester, we've collected books, and this past week, we donated about $3,200 worth of books, roughly 211 books in total, for the Hillcrest Juvenile Hall to help combat the 84% literacy challenge in juvenile incarceration. Others in my class collected kids' clothing from our school site campuses, and another group worked to register and pre-register students to vote. I am ever inspired by my peers' curiosity and dedication to change in our community. I have immense gratitude for my community and my school because they all help me feel joyfully connected and integral to the future of us. And once again, I thank you, Trustee Thompson and Trustee Sarver, for your dedication, your compassion, and your allyship to the community that we all call home. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item is comments from the Sequoia District Teachers Association. Oh, ask me first. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the time. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Renee Alvarez. I am the AFSCME chapter president. And as the calendar year and the fall semester come to a close, I just wanted to take some time to update you all on the progress that AFSCME and the district have made and continue to make on our contract. Earlier this year, we formed a contract cleanup committee which consists of AFSCME chapter officers, our business agent, Tina Eckry, and human resources staff, Freedom Siam and Becky Hayes. The goal is to review the contract language, some of which has not been updated for about 30 years, which I was told. We also merged both classified contracts and we edited the entire format of the contract. This work has been tedious, but for the most part, it's been pleasant. And I do have to say that it's in large part due to the impeccable team that Dr. Williams has put in place. So we thank you, and we are truly appreciative of the time and the effort spent to get this contract into what we say, get it into the 21st century. This is a lot of, a lot of time and a lot of effort that's spent on both parties, and Dr. Williams' executive team and the human resources department, they have listened to us. They've heard our concerns. They're available to us. They have been a pleasure to work with. And so we're truly grateful. And we look forward to bringing you our final contract in the new year. And so I just wanted to give a quick update into Trustee Sarver and Trustee Thompson. I haven't had too much time to work with you, but I am aware that I myself have benefited, as well as my two boys in this district, from your contribution. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. And now comments from the Sequoia District Teachers Association.
Thank you. Well, AFSCME has been working on cleaning up their contract. We have been working with HR on job descriptions. We would like to thank you for just approving the new job description for speech and language professionals that talk about bringing it into the 21st century. I was in first grade when the last version of that was approved. You don't have to laugh that much. It was only 20 years ago. In working on those job descriptions and looking at it, one of the themes that we keep coming back to this year, when we're talking about student burnout, we're talking about teacher burnout, is sustainability. SDTI is a real concern that none of the jobs in education currently are sustainable. It is not sustainable to be a high school teacher. It's not sustainable to be a counselor. It's not sustainable to be a high school principal. It's not sustainable to work at the district office. There's too much work. And we're concerned about that. And we hope that we can make improvements through this process that will help to keep the professionals in our district and working with students. We are working to support students' academic and mental health needs. And as you no doubt are aware, there's been a drastic increase in recommendations and requests for assessment for special education and a wider 504 net for those who don't qualify for special ed services. This results in an increased workload for our psychologists, our intervention counselors, and other specialists who work with those populations. So we need to work together to make those jobs sustainable. It does not serve our community or our students to have those be a revolving door as people burn out and search for other employment where they can manage their work-life balance better. So we want to continue to serve and support our students, and we're hopeful that we can make strides in those areas as well as many others. Thank you.
Thank you. So now moving on to item 11. Finally, thank you for your patience. Public comment. This is for items not on the agenda. I do have a speaker's card from Council Member Antonio Lopez.
Good evening, honorable trustees. I want to echo first by giving my deep thanks to the esteemed gentlemen here, Sarver and Thompson. I look at you guys and I look at role models for what we're trying to do as the next generation of elected officials. So I thank you both gentlemen for your service. Haven't had the opportunity to be in much camaraderie with you, but I echo the sentiments in saying my my whole family went to Sequoia, and so I know you guys have an indelible impact in my family's life. And so I want to extend the praises this evening. My name is Antonio Lopez. I'm on the City Council of East Palo Alto, and in particular to our superintendent, Dr. Williams. I think it's safe to say that I represent East Palo Alto, and as a multi-ethnic working class community for a long time, our history is about education. When you look at the dissolution of Ravenswood, the busing movement, I remember as a kid seeing a lot of my generation on the corners waiting for the bus to take them all to Belmont, to Carmont at 6:30 in the morning. It was chilly. And so making sure I'm enough time. At any rate, I want to say that we have felt out of the table, historically neglected. And so when I saw that the board decided to vote in Dr. Williams, I felt for me there was a new chapter turned in Sequoia, and I felt affirmed and appreciated and seen. And so I want to appreciate the board's decision and for understanding that Dr. Williams came at a time when there was a global pandemic. We were all struggling to figure out how we're going to do this thing called education with equity, making sure that kids that don't have Wi-Fi, that live in cramped corners in apartments are able to have the same education as somebody who has a pot in their backyard. How do you do that work? And so we have an individual who came in, who knew that work, met with stakeholders at all levels. And so I was so pleased to see her hitting the ground running. Woodside Principal Karen Van Putten said of the current superintendent, she has embraced the school district and is supportive of site principals. I don't believe I'm misquoting Ms. Salvatore, who said at a paper she has an ambitious vision for the district, but I think she has given herself time to get to know our history. So more importantly, I wish to remind the board that Dr. Williams came at a time at a district of great uncertainty, not just for Sequoia, but for the whole country, right? We are and were and continue to be in the midst of a racial reckoning. We saw the murder of George Floyd. We saw Black Lives Matter protests. We had our own students blocking freeways and blocking exits, saying enough is enough. We need to listen to our minority majority district, our concerns and our needs, the marching on the streets. And so that was the time to listen, to make sure that our community is reflected by the leaders, by leadership that looks like us, that works for us. And so I just want to say on behalf of the city, the people I serve, that we are aligned with the superintendent's goal to promote diversity, to incorporate inclusive practices in the classroom, one that best positions our students for academic and professional success. And I want to continue to just say she's the best person for the job. And I just want to appreciate you, Dr. Williams, for all that you do and the staff that support her, as well as our outgoing trustees. It is not lost upon me how historic this district is, and I have all the faith in the world that we're going to continue to be a leader, not just for the Bay Area, but for the whole state of California. We have that blessing, we have that leadership, we have the talent, and let's continue to cultivate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, newly elected council member Maurice Goodman. He's also a trustee for the Community College District and president. Have I done all your titles? There's probably more. Thank you for coming to our board meeting.
Yes.
And thank you, Antonio, for coming to our board meeting.
Yes, good evening. And thank you both for your service, and I wish you all well. But, we do this all together. And that's what I want to start off my statement off with, the word together. Good evening. I'm here as a friend, as steward and advocate of the Sequoia Union High School District and the greater San Mateo County educational community. I want to first give credit where credit is due and congratulate you on your many tremendous endeavors over the past few years, including hiring Dr. Williams. And after what must have been a stellar evaluation, that you gave her an extension, which is why so many are here tonight wondering or being perplexed at the thought of derailing the work that has been done to make Sequoia Union a district truly for all, with a focus on improving learning outcomes and providing students with early access to free college courses, allowing them to change the trajectory of their lives. I personally want to thank and extend an appreciation of all the work the Superintendent Williams has done for the Sequoia students, teachers, and families, for her work to guide the district through the challenging times of COVID and the recovery that followed, co-authoring with this board a resolution that resulted in receiving PPE from the support of Senator Becker and becoming a model for other districts throughout the county. Dr. Williams heard the voices of students, teachers, staff, and families that challenged the district to do more to improve equity across the district and understood the assignment before her. By leading the district in 2 equity audits, working with USC Race and Equity Center to conduct a climate study to identify opportunities, challenges, and successes of the district. And much closer to home for me as an educational access advocate, I am in awe at the speed in which Dr. Williams was able to do more in a year than many high school districts were able to do in decades for under-resourced, high-potential students here in the district. From the very successful College and Career Signing Day and creating the College and Career Guide, to the groundbreaking Access Expanding Middle College Partnership with Kenyatta College, and the collaboration among Ravenswood Schools, Kenyatta, San Francisco State, and Cal State East Bay. In the midst of a racial reckoning, as we just heard, in an environment throughout our country where education was under attack, along with our most vulnerable members of our communities, and our communities demanded a leader that represents the voice of our community, a steady voice of experience and educational leadership. We found all that and more in Dr. Williams. And she has done nothing but unapologetically execute the visions and goals of the board here before you. And I look forward to continue serving and working alongside Dr. Williams for this district. For her successes are your successes, and vice versa. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. I think that's, oh, I have one hand up, sorry. Pardon me? I can see it. Jeremy Array.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jeremy Airy, and I'm a paraprofessional in the STARS department at Menlo Atherton High School. I also work as a Black Student Union advisor, Student Voice and Advocacy Club advisor, and a Writing Center tutor after school. Thank you for the space to make a comment. 2 recent incidents at MA related to guns were something we never want to see in schools, and now also give the district a unique chance to be aware of a problem, confront the issue, and do everything that is necessary to respond in efforts to prevent future incidents. While MA has handled the 2 incidents and the response very well, the school is one of the biggest in the county with a diverse community of life experiences and cultures, needs more support from the district to be proactive. I believe everyone in our community should be able to say and feel confident that our district is collecting data and coming up with measurable goals, staying accountable and making progress on this issue in order to keep families, students, and staff safe. This includes data on gun ownership, possession and access, safety and transportation methods for students, and loss and trauma related to gun violence and violence in general. So my question is the district making efforts to collect data on the reality of guns and violence so that these measurable goals can be set and solutions can be created that are effective, accountable, and all-encompassing?
Thank you. Next speaker, Mallory Byrne.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Oops, now we can't hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Cannot hear you, sorry. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, call on the other speakers and then come back to you, Mallory.
Sure.
Jenny Bloom.
Hello. I think you guys can hear me.
We can.
My name is Jenny Varghese Bloom. I am a trustee of the Ravenswood City School District, and I am here to, first of all, thank the 2 board members for their service. Trustee Thompson and Trustee Sarver, thank you for being a part of this iteration of the board. I will make some observations that before this iteration of the board, there were vast portions of the school district that did not have a voice at the table. So I appreciate that this iteration of the board has brought in transparency and has brought in voices from the least heard. And I represent one of those communities as a trustee of the Ravenswood City School District. There have been multiple conversations that I've had with students, not only as a trustee and as a resident of East Palo Alto, but also as a college admissions advisor, that students have told me what their experience has been at the Sequoia Union High School District, of not being heard, of feeling that they are in a different school than their white and Asian peers. And I brought those concerns to the table when you guys searched for a new superintendent. And I appreciated the transparency that was shown to us as members of a community whose voice wasn't always heard, to be able to be heard in the selection of this superintendent, of Dr. Darnice Williams. My experience with Dr. Darnice Williams is one of partnership and is one of awe because of how much she's taken on in her first year and a little bit more of serving here at Sequoia Union High School District. As a Ravenswood parent, as a future parent of the Sequoia Union High School District, I appreciate that she has uplifted the path for diversity, equity, and making sure every voice is heard. I thank the board for giving all communities the space to speak, to have a say, and have an ability to talk about the stakes that they hold in this district. And I hope to continue that partnership moving forward. And so I would like to thank this iteration of the board. I would like to thank the superintendent for the work that she has done, and we hope to continue to see being done in the future. And I hope as the new board comes in, that our community, the communities that are the least heard, continue to have a seat at the table and continue to be heard, because we all know that when we serve the least of any community, we are serving all of every community. So I really hope that this board and all boards continue to do that. So thank you, Dr. Williams, for your service with this board, and we hope to continue to partner with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Bloom. Chris Beatley Hagley.
All right, thank you. Y'all can hear me?
Yes.
Cool, appreciate it. Well, I just wanted to first appreciate the voters, the board, and especially Crystal Leach for prioritizing the the HVAC needs of our classrooms and other facilities. These are super essential upgrades to create learning environments that our students deserve. And so speaking of that, the learning environments our students deserve, I also wanted to share a couple of things. First, how important the affinity groups, the support on site at Redwood High School, and the leadership of the EDI partners have been in working to achieve governance goal number 2, which states, we commit to design and implement structures, systems, and policies that achieve equity in our instructional, institutional, and employment practices. In the Affinity Group Fellowship, I had the incredible opportunity to learn from a multicultural group of SUHSD employees who all came from different places in terms of experiencing racism, learning about its legacy, and how we can show up in our current roles to work for racial justice. I learned an incredible amount in a short period of time about so much, but the biggest takeaway was I still have so much more to learn. I'm hopeful that SUHSD will continue to support my colleagues and me as we continuously recommit to this work, because we have not received adequate training previously in our professional pursuits to center anti-racism or equitable practices. I teach at Redwood High School, and I'm proud that our principal, Stephanie Ogden, has demonstrated a financial commitment that echoes this need. Specifically, she's allocated staff collaboration time for racial affinity groups and hired the incredible consultant Mara Benitez from Design for Equity to support whole staff, small group, and facilitator coaching. We've been doing this work for several years now, but again, the more we commit to entering and holding these brave spaces, the more apparent it is the incredible amount of work still to be done. To truly provide our students access to the quality education our school district strives to offer, this must center anti-racism and equity. especially at Redwood, which serves students who've been most underserved by our education system in general and our school district as a result, we must continuously recommit to centering the needs of our racialized students. Without specific allocation of time and resources to changing the way we teach and create learning environments, we will continue to get inequitable educational outcomes that reflect racial privilege. I also wanted to voice support for the creation of the EDI partner positions, recognizing the leadership of current SUHSD employees, validating their experience and insight, and entrusting them with creating the roadmap forward is essential to centering the needs of racialized employees and students. The more the leadership of Taja Henderson and Pablo Aguilera can inform our practices, the more likely we can realize governance goal number 2. Lastly, I must say, SUHSD students need more teachers and counselors who look like them, who can support them in navigating an educational system that reproduces inequitable outcomes. And so I hope our district will continue to listen to, validate, and collaborate with the BIPOC leaders already in our district, and work to support white staff in our necessary growth as anti-racist educators to collaboratively create an environment where racialized students and adults can feel a sense of belonging and thriving. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Carol Ann Coleman.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, make sure you save some cake for me as well.
There's
If
a
it's
lot.
already. So I've heard a lot of really amazing things this evening. Caroline Coleman, Sequoia High School teacher, also parent and advocate of social justice. I've heard about mental health. I've heard praises for the board members. Sad to see some of them leaving, but I'm sure we'll see many of them come back. Dr. Williams, I was getting a little nervous when people were giving you all these praises, like she's not leaving us, I hope. Thank you for setting the table. Most importantly, I just wanted to share, and this again always comes from a place of love, something that I've experienced. I'd like to just remind, let's choose macro love over the daily microaggressions that our BIPOC community, that includes staff and students, experience on a daily basis. I learned that I can always do better in all ways, every day. I'm grateful I had the opportunity to also participate in the Racial Equity Fellowship last year. As a cis white female and an uplifter for our babies, our students and our staffers, my personal area of growth comes from being aware of my own biases daily and realizing how easy it is for me to stay in that comfort zone of my whiteness. But instead, I need to lean into that discomfort every day of doing the right thing. My wish, my hope is that my other white allies will walk, maybe even run through a daily task of leaning into the messy work around social justice, dismantling the structures that discriminate against our BIPOC community, marginalizing our BIPOC staff and students. I do need to remind myself that I'm running out of time. My privilege gives me the choice to try to get things right in our school, but persons of color can't choose. I've experienced that through my own intentionality. I step slowly
I'm sorry, I hate to cut you
in the right
off, but
direction.
we have, sorry, Carol Ann. We got to start our meeting. So thank you for your comments. There's 3 more hands up, and so I'm gonna have to end the public comments after those 3 hands. So Jenny Ortiz, sorry.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny Ortiz. I'm a teacher at Woodside. I'm also head of the social studies department. I've been at Woodside for about 24 years, and I was in the cohort last year for racial affinity groups. I want to add on to what Chris and Carol Ann said about these groups. I want to share why they're so special and important to me. I can remember when I was one of two Latina teachers at Woodside. And for many reasons, that was very, very lonely. In 2019, it was the first staff meeting of the year. I can remember meeting 4 Latina educators, Ilse, Jackie, Yenny, Roxana, and my jaw dropped. There was a party in my head and my heart with reggaeton, salsa, cumbia. I was so happy to see more Latinas at Woodside. I didn't feel so alone anymore, and I felt very seen. And so I'm here to ask the board to continue their support for the racial affinity groups so that we educators can continue the work at each of our sites. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Cecilia Taylor from Menlo Park. She may have taken her hand down. She's back. Okay, go ahead. Cecilia?
Yes.
Oh, thank
Good
you.
evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Board President, Board of Trustees, educators, students, and the superintendent. I am Cecilia Taylor. I am the founder of Belhaven Action, and I am also on the Menlo Park City Council. I want to thank the board members for their 13 years of public service. Without volunteers, there's a lot of work that would not be done. I also wanted to invite everyone in this room, especially those who live specifically in the Belhaven neighborhood, to a community health fair that's happening this Sunday, December 11th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Ivy Plaza, 415 Ivy Drive. This actually was spearheaded by the first health fair that we did in February, which we did in partnership with the Sequoia Union High School District, Ravenswood School District, Ravenswood Health Network, and the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. My biggest concern has been, not just since COVID, but since I have been active, are the social determinants for health for all of our community members, especially our youth. It has been difficult for folks to learn in environments that have bad air quality, that have a low tree canopy, and actually don't really have access to infrastructure. I also am calling to support what Jeremy stated. I wanted to talk to you about why it's important to find out why students are coming to school with guns, not just to expel them and think that the situation is over, but to look at the mental health, the data as to why that they're coming. The last thing that I wanted to share with you is that a lot of what I have been able to do is through leadership from the board and also the superintendent. It is very important for me and for my community to be connected, to be communicated with, and also to be acknowledged. And with your leadership, that has happened, and I'm calling to say thank you and good night.
Thank you very much. Okay, last speaker, Mallory Byrne.
All right, let's try this one more time. Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, woo. All right, so my name is Mallory Byrne. I'm a social studies teacher at MA, and I would like to make a couple of comments and bring up some questions that relate to the 2 incidents on our school campus in which guns were found in the possession of students. Many members of our school community are extremely concerned about these recent events, and to quote our awesome principal, Carl Loosecoat, guns have no place in schools. I commend Carl and our school and district leaders for meeting together and inviting Atherton PD, Menlo Park PD, EPA PD, members of our union, and PTA together for a meeting this Friday. And I look forward to hearing what comes out of that. As a district, we need to make sure that the emotional and physical needs of staff and students are also taken care of in times like this. This would be a great opportunity to ask the staff and students of this school district what they need right now. Can the district provide training on how to have conversations with staff and students around events like this and about trauma and PTSD? Some of our students' family members have experienced the loss of family members due to gun violence. When events like this happen at school, it's essential that we hold space for those that may have been impacted by gun violence, and for those of us that have anxiety and real fear about guns being on our campus. We need training to adequately hold those community circles. One of my colleagues stated that we also need voluntary training to help staff increase preparedness and learn de-escalation skills. Is this something that the district can offer? I appreciate the time and space to share these comments and questions, and I'm happy to email the school board with a list of these questions. Thank you so much for your time and for this space.
Thank you. And I want to make a correction. The MA PTA meeting is on Tuesday, 7 o'clock to 8:30 at MA in the PAC. Yeah. So I think originally it was supposed to be Friday, but they moved it to Tuesday to accommodate panelists. Okay, so we are finished with public comment. Thank you all. Moving on to item 12, 12.1, the review of the Smarter Balanced Assessment.
Thank you. We have with us this evening Diana Wilmot, who is going to go over our SBAC results with you. My thanks to Carrie Dubois and Rich Ginn, who a year ago were appointed by their colleagues to review data presentations before they came to you. And I think they gave us some really good suggestions. So you will see 52 slides in this deck, and have no fear, we are not presenting all of them. We are going to hone in at their suggestion on 2 takeaways that we think are of great value to share with you. And I do want to remind folks that I think these results matter. They're important, but I also think it's important to say that this is one test that kids take one time in high school. So I offer this to you with both a feeling that they matter and holding it loosely, that it is one in many measures that we look at when we look at student achievement. With no further ado, Diana.
Thank you, Bonnie. Good evening, President Dubois, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Williams. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening about the Smarter Balanced Assessments state testing results. This year's seniors, the class of 2023, were administered the tests in math and literacy last spring between March and May. The results were sent home in the summer, and they're also available for each student in the parent portal on Infinite Campus. The state first released this aggregate data publicly on October 24th, 2022. Also forthcoming is the data from the California State Dashboard, which I'll share with you in February, as it's still under preview and embargoed. The state dashboard includes the accountability tied back to some of these results, so we'll revisit some of it later. And it also includes other data points such as graduation rates, English learner progress, and college and career readiness indicators. But we'll save that one for February. There will be, you could see 2 more presentations coming your way, one in January and one in February. So I share this assessment data with you tonight, not in a vacuum, but in context to the important work we have been doing as an institution. The Smarter Balanced Assessments are seen as a measure of college and career readiness, and the results from junior year, in fact, can be used by the California State University system to determine readiness for college level courses during freshman year. We use the Smarter Balanced Assessments as a metric in our annual Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP, to check progress on every subgroup and monitor our performance in meeting the state standards across many of these goals here on the wall. As you are well aware, this is the first time we have seen state testing results in literacy and math since 2019. The California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, known as CASP, was suspended in the spring of 2020 due to the shutdown and given as an optional test in spring 2021 when we were in the middle of distance learning. since we are a high school district and only required to test juniors each year in 2021, we opted to use the SAT instead of smarter balance assessments in a remote setting. So while we haven't seen results since 2019, I do caution the use of comparison from this given year, as these groups of students have had very different experiences and are different cohorts of students. That said, I know in the media, people are remarking on the statewide decline in literacy and math from 2019 to 2022. And while students across the state did show a decline in both areas, juniors in particular showed a significant decline in math across the state, dropping 6 percentage points. And juniors also across the state declined in literacy by 3 percentage points. Our students showed more promising results than that. They went up by 1% in literacy and declined in math by only 3 percentage points. Some of those slides are in the appendix. Our juniors compared to juniors across the state nearly doubled the percent of students who met or exceeded in math, and in literacy, our juniors outperformed the state by nearly 17 percentage points. The overall percentage of our district students, our juniors who met or exceeded standards, was 71% in literacy, as you'll see on this slide, and 50% in math. You also notice on these two slides, the number of students tested and the number of students with scores. Just want to point out that our participation rate was high, but not 95% as the state expects. So we will see some of that. I'm foreshadowing some of what we might see in the California State dashboard regarding our participation rate. Some people might first ask us, were you surprised by these results? And the answer is, quite frankly, no. Why? Because we have been administering an interim comprehensive assessment that measures the same focal priority standards as the SBAC in literacy and math for the last 4 years. We have conducted an in-depth analysis of these assessments and have found them to be highly correlated with the results on the SBAC. And we give these assessments to students across all 4 grades, despite the fact that the SBAC only tests once a year, so that we can monitor the progress of our students throughout their time at Sequoia. Some people might also ask, so what is your greatest area of improvement? So I'm going to put the slide on, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what's in the appendix in case you didn't have a chance to review all 54 slides. So very quick rundown. The students who outperformed the county and the state by subgroup included the RFEP students, our students with disabilities, our Asian students, our white students, our students who identify as 2 or more races, and students who are not socioeconomically disadvantaged. In addition, parental education is a significant determinant of student achievement for the state, county, and our district. For parents with post-secondary experiences in college and grad school, San Mateo County outperformed the state and our district outperforms the county. However, on the flip side, our economically disadvantaged students slightly underperformed the state and county, and our Hispanic Latinx students perform about equivalently to the state and county. Our African-American students slightly underperform the state and the county, as do our Filipino students and our English learner students, which is what I have here on this slide. We dug a little bit into the data for the standards, specifically around English language arts, and are looking and found that, our EL students struggled the most in writing and reading. You can see the percent below standard for our EL students there. While we know our literacy intervention program focuses on reading, and we have seen some gains in these areas, students moving up from below to near standard, for example, it's in writing where we see the greatest opportunity for growth and improvement. This will take on some instructional implications, and we will be working with our teachers on this. For example, the performance task in English language arts on the SBAC requires students to both read and write in response to 2 mediums. We will offer further professional development in this area. And we have spent a great deal of time working on instructional strategies for listening and speaking, and we can see that they're doing much better in these domains. And with time, we will continue to monitor our students' performance in writing and see if training and focus on these standards can help support our students' growth. In addition, we have been exerting a huge effort in working with our staff to identify English learners for reclassification and to align with our feeder districts around the metrics for reclassifying our English learners. So what difference does reclassifying in high school make for English learners? All of the data suggests that outcomes for English learners are greater if they become reclassified. This includes graduation, A through G results, and yes, even performance on the SBAC. In analyzing our assessment data in partnership with Stanford Graduate School of Education, we found that students who reclassified during high school outperformed our long-term English learners on the SBAC. We found that reclassifying even during high school shows a positive outcome on the SBAC compared to staying a long-term English learner. As a college readiness measure, the Smarter Balance Assessment is a predictor of student success post-high school, and we want to give our English learners the greatest chance at this success. Putting our effort into reclassification processes can help this cause, and you will hear more about this in January when we present more data on English learners. Some people might also ask, why do our juniors do so much better in literacy compared to math? The answer is relatively straightforward. The tests have shown the same discrepancy between subjects year after year. So this isn't a new issue. It's the same across the state, county, and comparable districts. If I had to take a guess as to why students seem to have greater evidence of proficiency in literacy, my best guess would be that the standards students learn in literacy are cumulative and similar in terms of reading informational texts and literature, speaking and listening and writing year after year. The mathematics standards, while also shared in practice year after year in terms of procedural fluency and applications, problem solving, communicating, reasoning, can be a bit more dependent on the context of the type of math that they are learning and they are experiencing in school. For example, if a junior is enrolled in geometry or even in algebra during SBAC testing, they will likely have a harder time demonstrating proficiency if the math problems they are seeing are pretty new to them. So that brings up a good question. How did our students in the math initiative do? This is the first time, it's the first class, the class of 2023 that experienced the math initiative. And once we saw our math results, the first question that came to mind was, so how did our juniors perform who participated in the math initiative? So we spoke with our colleagues at Stanford, of course, again, about augmenting the study that they had conducted to see if assignment into the Algebra 1 initiative made a difference. They found a substantial positive effect of the math initiative on the achievement of students who otherwise would have been placed in algebra readiness. Stanford believes this is likely because these students have been able to pursue a more advanced course progression throughout high school. In addition, all groups enrolled in the Algebra 1 initiative had a higher average SBAC results than peers not assigned to the initiative. Therefore, they did not detect any evidence of harm from assignment to this initiative on the higher achieving students in our randomized sample. And I have that statement right here from soon-to-be Dr. Huffager, who is also in the audience, should you have any questions about this particular analysis. So what? And then now what? So let me go with the so what. Our findings suggest that student achievement results at Sequoia have been and remain inequitable. However, through efforts such as the Math Initiative, efforts to increase reclassification of our English learners, and the implementation of the EL Master Plan, our district is focusing more attention and resources on equity. This focus is showing greater positive impact on the historically low achieving groups and is not resulting in lowered achievement for the historically high achieving groups. This indicates a meaningful opportunity to close the achievement gap. Now what? So we're in the process of creating a pilot template to send home to families about the fall 2022 ICA results and building training modules for the teachers to examine the ICA and the SBAC results and identify areas to focus on during classroom instruction. As stated earlier, we have a laser-like district-wide focus on reclassification for our long-term English learners. And we are working hard to ensure our duly classified students, that is our EL students with disability, have the best opportunities to reach their full potential for reclassification as well. The EL and SPED departments are strongly collaborating to bring this to fruition. Further, we have been undergoing a review of our literacy intervention and support programs and evaluating our current offerings for long-term English learners, as well as students with disabilities, to assess their access to a broad course of study. We are in the process of a robust implementation of the EL Master Plan approved last year, including ELD and LEP curriculum development and instructional support for our newcomers. And lastly, in alignment with the latest addition to our LCAP, we are investigating new data platforms to engage in real-time analysis to support all of our efforts and meet our goals. In summary, we plan to continue our focus and attention on equity and to monitor our progress along the way.
Well done.
I'm done.
Thank you very much. Any comments and questions from board members? Rich?
I'll take you up on your offer of a little more explanation about how to read that chart that had the lines and the circles, and I wasn't sure about the X and Y axis. So just a little more about what that's showing us.
Sure, I will
I
invite
wasn't sure I interpreted.
soon to be
it right.
Dr. Huffaker to explain it. She was the.
Explaining this chart.
Oh, okay. This one.
I wasn't sure what the. Yeah.
Sure. So each of these points represents a coefficient from the regression that we ran to analyze the results of assignment to the initiative versus assignment to the control group on this SBAC outcome. So there were 3 different groups that students could have been assigned to if they weren't in the initiative, right? They would have been students who were already going to be in Algebra 1. So if you look along the x-axis right there, that distinguishes these 3 comparison groups, right? And this would have been in their freshman year. And then they could have been in that Algebra 1 group with support, and they could have been in algebra readiness. But instead we have all these students who are grouped together into just the initiative sections. So this is giving us the coefficient on the treatment indicator interacted with each of those groups. So for the first 2 points right here, we don't see a statistically distinct effect of assignment to the initiative versus the control group. So if we look.
Or we could.
Oh, sure.
Or point with. Nope, get up.
I'm going to point over here. Okay, so for these 2 groups, we don't see a statistically different outcome on the SPAC versus students who were in just Algebra 1 or Algebra 1 with support, but not in the initiative. And the bars here are indicating a 95% confidence interval. So when we do a test for significance, we want to be 95% confident that there is no overlap between these 2 distributions. We don't see those for those 2 groups, but we also don't see that at this point right here, which is just the mean difference in achievement. So just controlling for some important features like how students were randomized within each campus, which is something that we do in our analysis, and why this doesn't look exactly the same as just looking at the raw scores between the 2 groups of students. After we've done that, we get that the coefficient is, in this case, it looks like about 8 points on the scale score. I also did a version that had standardized that SBAC score, and we end up with the same interpretation. It's just that this is maybe more interpretable since we've already been looking at the scores in terms of the scale score. So neither this nor this are different from 0, which means that the students in the control group, the students in the treatment group did about the same. There was no harm done. But for our 3rd group over here, which are those students who would have been placed in algebra readiness in 9th grade, but were instead placed in the initiative, we see that they did about 28, which is about a 28 scale score point effect size in terms of the difference between the students in the initiative versus the students not in the initiative. And because there's no overlap in those confidence bars right here, it's statistically distinct from 0, that effect size. If you standardize this, it's about 0.2 standard deviation. And if you think about it in terms of the statewide distribution of achievement on the SBAC, it's like moving a student from about the 20th percentile, which is where on average this group of students would be, to the 28th percentile, which is in terms of the statewide distribution, kind of suggests a leapfrogging in terms of student learning of quite a few things within the state.
And the two groups you're comparing are the 2019 test and the 2022 test, or different students who were all here in 2022, but, and how'd you pick? Because were there some students that were not put in the program? And then what, were they randomly chosen? Okay.
Totally randomly chosen. The first year that we started the math initiative, we asked teachers who were interested in being a part of it. And so then we completely randomly assigned students who would have been placed into algebra readiness, as well as algebra with support, and then just plain algebra across the sections that were both a part of the math initiative that year and not a part of the math initiative that year. So these are all students who were in that freshman class, and it's comparing how kids who were part of the math initiative fared compared to students who were not part of the math initiative.
That's it. Anyone else? Thank you. Nothing else?
Just comment that I'm grateful for the board's work on that. I think that's helpful. Two, thankful for the report, because in spite of what Bonnie said about not over-reliance upon one test measure, I think there are lessons here that are useful for the board to see. And the final comment I want to make was thank you for the collaboration with Stanford, because that represents a lot of work that we might have been able to do internally, but it was great to have that support. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
I had a fair amount of email conversation with Bonnie and Diana, and that was strongly reflected in the way the presentation was made. So I appreciate the way that you use my thoughts and perspectives on this, and I think my comments have been taken well. Thank you.
Sorry, I called you Chris. I know you're Ellen. I've worked with you a while. Okay. Anything else? No. Thank you very much for that presentation. All right, moving on.
Thank you.
We're done, right? 12.2. Kip.
All right. First of all, I want to thank our guests who are with us from KIP this evening. They have now been with us for the last 2.5 hours.
So
and I've
sorry.
seen
Sorry.
multiple laps to the
My
sheet
fault.
cake. I am not sure at this point if Chris has had more sheet cake or Sothvik. It's pretty close. So we were supposed to have with us this evening Joel Portillo, who's the head of schools, the school leader for KIP, but he is out this week with an unforeseen event. And so he is being represented by 3 of KIP's own. So I want to welcome to learn from them through their report, Chris Copolillo, who is the managing director, Thomas Ryan, who's the school leader manager, and Melissa Salgado, director of community engagement.
Thanks so much, board members, for having us. Just a quick administrative note, the school leader at KIP Esperanza High School is now Dr. Christian Miley, who we are filling in for because he is unexpectedly absent. My name is Chris Copolillo. I'm the Managing Director of Growth Advocacy and Community Engagement at KIP Northern California. And we are pleased to tell you tonight about the KIP Esperanza High School story, about our students, about our team, our approach to this challenging and worthy work, and the community we're building at Esperanza. Just a note, in the lead up to this meeting, we sent you both the slides that will be projected here. Oh, maybe not. We sent you a set of slides. Are those able board members to be projected? Even if it's just a PDF, that would be helpful. As we're investigating, wow, this is fascinating. It just shows up in front of you. That's really cool. Fantastic. And as we're pulling those up, thank you very much. We sent you both these slides and our KIP Northern California impact report. We will speak to the work solely at Esperanza tonight. but offer the report for context on our work in the broader region, and of course, welcome your questions to that end. Okay, fantastic. Wow, okay, I won't even touch it, or should I? Okay, I can, fantastic, thank you. This is great. So here's our overview. So who are we? KIPP Esperanza High School is, as a public charter school, free, public, and open to all students. Our school opened our doors in fall 2020, following the unanimous approval of our petition from this board in September 2019. We pursued the KIPP Esperanza High School petition largely in response to the wishes of our families at KIPP Valiant and KIPP Excelencia, two K-8 charter schools in Menlo Park and, in Menlo Park and Redwood City, respectively, so that our students could continue their learning experience at a KIPP school through their high school years. Central to that experience is our educators' unwavering belief that all students can succeed in college when provided with rigorous college preparatory education and a wide range of supports. And as we will describe, Esperanza is doing just that. We've come a long way in the last 2.5 years, and from working with students virtually to developing an on-site academic culture to the creation of clubs and community spaces. And we're certainly on a growth trajectory, growing in academic proficiency, growing our grade level offerings, growing our school culture. So who are our students? A little bit here. Our scholars are overwhelmingly, as you see, categorized as socioeconomically disadvantaged, meaning that they receive free or reduced lunch, or neither of their parents graduated from college. 20% of Esperanza students have an IEP and accordingly qualify for special education services. 39% of our scholars are currently multilingual learners, 53% have reclassified, and all of our students identify as students of color, overwhelmingly being Latinx. 93% of our students as well identify a language other than English as their primary language. These percentages of students with disabilities, socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and multilingual learners exceed both district and state averages, which I mentioned not to invite a value judgment, but solely to provide context on where we are in the community. Our student demographic data demonstrates that we're living out the commitment we refer to in our charter to provide opportunities for traditionally underserved students. One of our 5 school values, board members, is identity. We know that part of developing an excellent school climate is enabling our students to see shared identities with faculty members. And I want to tell you a little bit about our team, because to that end, over half of our teachers are people of color, and the same goes for our administrative team. In an encouraging early data point for the school, Esperanza last year scored in the 98th percentile nationwide on Instructional Culture Index, a metric KIPP uses to gauge teacher confidence in the vision, expectations, and commitment to instructional excellence at a school site. ICI is a strong predictor of teacher retention and improved student outcomes. So in the absence of state assessment data, we are encouraged by this data point. Just as a reminder, we have yet to test a cohort of our students because we grow year over year. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Tom Ryan, to talk a little bit about our instructional culture.
Thank you, Chris. Again, my name is Tom Ryan. I'm the school leader manager for KIPP Esperanza, which means I work pretty closely with Dr. Miley, who is the school leader. And prior to this, I served as the principal of the KIPP San Jose High School for 10 years. So in terms of how our staff work with our students, the core ingredients are listed up here. But just to name them, providing a rigorous curriculum instruction, College for All model, supports through mental health staffing, along with electives and clubs and sports that round out our students' academic experience. I'm going to speak more to the College and Career for All approach on the next slide. So I'm first going to focus on the socio-emotional learning that we provide on campus. All of our students are enrolled in advisory. It's a class that's built into the daily schedule. And it's here where teachers really foster relationships, deeper relationships with students through both academic and SEL check-ins. We do have an SEL curriculum that's called Sown to Grow, and that curriculum is grounded in the 5 SEL competencies. In addition to that, we do have a full-time a full-time mental health counselor on campus to provide supports for students. Given that we are only in our third year, we do not have state assessments. This will be the first year that our students will be taking the SBAC, but I would like to share more about the ways that we support our students. So in terms of our support for our multilingual learners, we do offer 2 ELD classes. One is designed specifically for newcomers, and then a second course is provided for students who have taken at least a year of ELD, but we've identified as they would definitely continue to benefit from explicit language instruction. In terms of our staffing, over 50% of our staff are bilingual in English and Spanish, which definitely helps during instruction as needed. And we do offer multiple levels of Spanish to help our students to continue to develop their proficiency in Spanish language as well. In terms of our support for students with disabilities, as Chris mentioned, 20% of our students do have IEPs. We have an inclusion model with a co-teaching approach. So all of our math and English courses do have a co-teaching model that's led both by the gen ed educator as well as an education specialist. In addition to that, we offer a math and reading lab for identified 9th and 10th graders who need additional supports in those subjects. And then separate from that, for students who fall on the moderate to severe on the autism spectrum, we offer a specialized teaching program, and this year we have 2 students in 9th grade that are participating in that. To speak specifically to our push around college, career, and beyond, all of our English, math, history, and science classes use what we call the AP for All curriculum, which has been created through the KIPP Foundation by some of our highest performing teachers throughout the entire network. And really the purpose of this curriculum is to prepare students that if they so choose to matriculate into AP courses as they advance in grade levels. Last year was the first year that we offered AP course with AP World History, and 30% of students took it last year. This year, in our third year now, we are offering English language, world history, studio art, and US history in the AP courses, and that will continue to expand next year as we grow to a full school. The last piece I wanted to speak to is our KIPP Forward support, which essentially this is the college, career, and beyond arm of our organization. And this lives out on our campus, and then all of our 11th graders take a course entitled Junior Seminar, which is really grounded in career, college, and other post-secondary path exploration. And then as 12th graders next year, there's a course specifically, it's called Senior Seminar, and it's really designed to provide our seniors guidance in the college application process, financial aid process, whatever post-secondary path they're choosing to take, that they have that support with a teacher, and that's built into the daily schedule. And then upon graduation, all of our students who graduate from a KIPP high school are assigned a counselor who follows them through their first 2 years of their post-secondary path. And then beyond that, that resource is available if students choose to continue to want it. So at this point, I'll hand it over to Melissa, who will talk more about community on campus.
Sorry, they're very tall. So my name is Melissa Salgado. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Community Engagement. So I work really closely with our families, specifically and our partners at KIPP Esperanza. So in addition to the rigorous academic culture at Esperanza, we have found ways to bring our community on campus. So we're really proud. Sorry, let me move this a little bit. Very proud. There it is. To work with locally based community organizations who support student learning and parent engagement. So 2 of our school values, as mentioned earlier, one of them was mentioned earlier, are identity and community, and the organizations that we have partnered with really do support and are very much aligned with that, with both values. Our partners regularly engage with our students during lunch. Boys and Girls Club has been there almost like 3 times a week since we opened up back in person. So it's been really, really great to see all of our partners during lunch. And also during our weekly assemblies for students that we host I think it changed from Thursday to Wednesday now. But we also they also engage our family during coffee with the principal and our KIPP Family Association meeting, which is sort of like a PTA meeting. A few examples of our partnerships that I want to highlight today is Epicenter. They host enrichment programming for our KIPP students at their facilities once a week, which includes music production, photography, yearbook, art, and cooking, which is super exciting. All of the content is co-delivered not only by Epicenter staff, but in collaboration with our KIPP staff. So that has been a really exciting partnership that is new this year. Another example I want to just highlight is JobTrain. We have a formal partnership with JobTrain. So together we've built a referral system to support KIPP families in accessing available programs and resources that JobTrain is able to provide. And last but not least, and again, these are just 3 examples of many. We've also partnered with Nuestra Casa, which they have been really encouraging our students in a civic engagement. And they've conducted presentations during our leadership class and have also driven nonpartisan voter registration drives to pre-register our students who are 16 and over and are eligible to register. So again, these are just a few examples, and I'm happy to share more information on the other partnerships that we have via maybe send you an email with that information. So I have worked firsthand with our founding families and students in designing KIPP Esperanza, and this was 3 years ago, as you all remember. The design included events. So families really chose like what events they wanted to host on campus. Students wanted to host on campus. So we're really excited that we were able to do some of that in person this year, just because of, the pandemic happened right as we were opening. And so some of these are just pictures of the events that we've hosted, including sporting events. We were able to open those up to our families, which is really exciting. And on the slide, you see a picture of our events that we recently hosted, Dia de los Muertos, where we opened our doors to our community students and families, and to celebrate a very important tradition for many of the families that we have on campus. Staff also hosted students for movie evenings, and pictured here on the bike is one of our students making a milkshake on a bike blender, which is very fun. This was during one of our movie nights. So these again are just a few examples of the way Esperanza has been able to bring their community together on campus and invite others. So we cannot wait to continue to host more, where of course we'd love to host all of you at. And that is all for today. Thank you.
Thank you, board members and superintendent. We welcome your questions, and we didn't leave with this. So just congratulations once again on getting your Wednesday nights back, or those that you so choose, because we've heard you'll be here again. So we welcome your questions.
Okay, thank you so much. And you're lucky to be here on the night we have cake, right? I hope that's what I'm waiting for. I am. Any questions? Chris?
I think they may have paid for the cake and having to wait through all that, those tributes and things like that. Thank you for the report. It's great to hear from KIPP. The original petition to us suggested that you showed enrollment projections of approximately 180 in the entering class. And at this point, you would have over 500 students. I think in your slides, you show us you currently have 200 and something. Are your projections changing now? And let me also preface it by saying, I know opening new schools is hard, and getting your first students in there is very hard. I think you come in with the advantage of KIPP awareness on a national level, but it's still hard. But I think it's good for us to know what's happening with the student enrollment projections.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take this one unless my colleagues would like to speak. So the direct answer to your question is yes, projections will change somewhat. We opened our school in a pandemic, and so in the heart of the pandemic, and so some of the recruitment activities you would typically take on, we were simply unable to do. the foundation for the school is really enrollment that results from matriculation from our existing middle schools. And that really remains the focus. Our current enrollment is almost entirely made up of students that have matriculated from either KIPP Valiant or KIPP Excelencia, and on to KIPP Esperanza. And our focus there is really to continue. Think as much as we want to continue to develop partnerships with other schools and members of the community, our focus will remain on ensuring that our students can matriculate into our school. And so we have some internal work to improve our matriculation processes and our matriculation numbers, quite frankly, but the core of who makes up our school is, I think, exactly what we committed to in our charter, if not numerically where we would hope it was. And to be honest, like as you all well know, we're funded on ADA. It's our goal to grow our enrollment.
I guess the point for me is the communication is going to be important because the numbers you have affect the numbers that we're serving in the district.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would think our district is interested in knowing the change in your projections might be helpful to us in our planning process. The only other point I wanted to make was about communication in general, and wondering, even though you operate with a huge amount of independence as defined by charter law, there are times when I think it's probably important for our district to contact you or for you to contact us. And so I wanted to be assured that we have those points of contact in place and that that's accessible on both sides.
Certainly. Well, first of all, we look forward to working with staff around enrollment projections. That's certainly something that we can do. Current point of contact at the school site is Dr. Christian Miley. We'll also leave our contact information with board members this evening. We did have some difficulty. Our previous school leader our previous school leader transitioned out after last year. So we're operating with a new school leader in this school year, but we'll be certain to leave you with the accurate contact information. Of course.
I just want to also add, like, we are definitely, like, I do a lot of our matriculation work, at least this year I have started. So we are very much in contact with folks during like address verification, ensuring that we are, really working together with the district to make sure that we are following the processes that are expected of us. And so there's multiple contact people, persons at KIPP that are definitely in contact with different members of the board. Of the district.
I don't think the board wants the contact. All right.
We're also open to.
Thank you very much. I appreciated your report.
Rich?
So just some sort of following up on Chris's line. Can you just comment on how many students could you fit in the facility that you have now?
It's a great question. I actually don't know that I could answer that. Do you think you could? Yeah.
Currently, it would be right around 400 at the, 400 students.
So the earlier projection was assuming additional facilities?
There would need to be some adjustment to the building in terms of,
So 400 with the.
Yeah.
Sorry. We are actually planning on construction during the summer to be able to expand that number. So there is construction happening on campus the summer of 2023 in order to fit more students, which it would be fitting the projected number that was in the initial charter.
Follow up? Go ahead.
Well, just a note to new board colleagues. I believe we have an agreement in place. It's sort of complicated in nature, but essentially that Aspire covers its own facility needs.
Oh,
Is
KIPP, yes.
I'm sorry.
It's
Well,
okay,
I
yes.
mean, it goes back to Aspire. in
Yes,
some
yeah,
way,
because we
the Aspire
purchased the
facility.
building that Aspire used.
And so while we have a direct interest in understanding how many students from the community are at KIPP, we don't have a financial interest in the facilities requirements they have to meet that.
But we're still happy to share information if that's helpful.
No, I wasn't, thank you. I wasn't necessarily going there. I was just curious about the capacity
Yeah.
and the number. So you mentioned that almost all the students that you have at the site were at your K-8 sites. Can you kind of comment on what percent of your K-8 sites, is it almost all of them that continue through, or some portion of your K-8s coming to various of our schools, or do you have any insight into that?
Can you just clarify your question?
So
So
it sounds like all of the students, or almost all the students at your high school were in your K-8s.
correct.
What percent of your K-8s go to other places?
Those two K-8 specifically.
Or the ones that would feed this high school?
Yeah, I could not name that number for you right now. We would be happy to do that.
Is
in
it
a
almost
follow-up.
all, or is it like half, or no idea?
It is not almost all at this point. A significant number of our students at KIP Valiant and KIP Excellencia choose other options at this point.
I'm just curious, what is your pitch to them as to why they should stay in KIP versus come to our schools?
Yeah. There we go.
As a former.
I think definitely one of the strengths of the program is the support that students get regardless of their post-secondary pathway. So we essentially have next year we'll have 2 college counselors on that campus. So if we're looking at ratio of students to college counselors, it's excellent. And the communication with families in terms of that whole process is really strong as well. So I think in terms of the level of support, knowing that we're committed for students to have the choice of what they want to do when they graduate with us, I'm confident saying that they will not be better supported anywhere else within a public school, just in terms of that one-on-one support. So I think that's definitely a draw, and I know that's what families are looking for as well.
And do you comment, how do you logistically do, I think, did I hear right that you track students through their first 2 years of college? And how do you do that? They commit to send you data or something?
Yeah, so there's, prior to students graduating, they meet their advisors before they leave to establish an initial relationship, and they do then provide what their contact information is going to be.
So it's like the advisor's job, they keep that student on their
Yeah, they basically have a
caseload for 2 extra
caseload.
years.
Correct.
Okay,
for those
thank
first
you.
2 years.
Shanice?
Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. I wanted to know, some charters don't actually have students that live in our serving area. And so that's my question for you all. For the number of students that you have, how many actually live in our serving area?
We can pull the specific numbers for you. I have a mental picture of this via zip code. The answer is like the vast majority of our students attend school within the service area, at least within the immediate surrounding zip code. Our enrollment is in the low 220s. I would put the number at 160 in the immediate area, with most in proximal zip codes as well. Very few coming from significantly outside that area.
I would love those numbers, and if you could give me the zip codes, that would be helpful. The next thing I had a question about was, and I think our Equity and Diversity Committee would appreciate this question, but you have 98% Latino, which is great, and you had, or 97, something like that, but only like 3% other. There's lots of data out there about when that's a very small percentage, how kids feel not included. Whether you're doing it or not, they may not feel included. Tell me a little bit more about how you help kids feel included when they're not the majority.
The advisory class that all students are enrolled into an advisory class, and that really serves as the family for students on campus. It's also the direct point of contact with families, that teacher is really working to establish those relationships for students to have that close knit of classmates that they really get to know well, and that group of students stays together over their 4 years. So speaking from experience, very much by the time those kids are seniors, they really feel a connection with each other. And ideally that teacher has also stayed with them for those 4 years to be able to create those relationships, to feel a sense of belonging on campus. The other thing that we do, they're called pulse surveys. We do them once a month with all of our schools, and the topics rotate, but belonging is one of the topics of questions that we poll students with. And then I look at that data with Dr. Miley And then we often then work with one of the assistant principals who oversees culture on campus to think about what can we shift within the advisory curriculum to continue to grow in whatever the data is telling us.
Okay. I have two more questions and I'll be done. You do something called AP for All. You said it's your curriculum that you develop.
The KIP Foundation, which is kind of the national body for KIP schools, they've identified teachers over the years that have helped build this curriculum out. So at this point, nearly every course subject, there is aligned curriculum, including the regular AP courses as well.
Okay. And how do you manage kids, students being able to take some of your AP? How do you encourage them to do so? So they may not come from your elementary school. They may come from other elementary schools. So they may not be used to the KIP way or whatever the case may be. So how do you encourage kids to take the AP classes and how do you support them?
I mean, the messaging definitely is that the courses that let's say the 9th grade English, 10th grade English, we essentially call them pre-AP, AP for all courses. And they're backwards mapped so that the skills that they're going to need to take, let's say an AP English language, are going to be spiraled up from 9th to 10th and then into the 11th grade year. And in terms of investment, we also do interim assessments on a quarterly basis that are tied to the highest stake standards that eventually then show up in the AP courses. And it's the messaging from staff that everyone can do this. And regardless of whether college is your ultimate choice, we know that these skills are going to be helpful regardless of what your next path is.
Okay. One last question. Well, first of all, I'd like to come for a visit. Who do I talk to about that?
Dr.
And Dr. Miley.
Okay, so if you can give me your card. Thank you. I'd love to come see you all sooner than later. The next thing is Julie Lai used to work with you all. And I know she's moved on to UCSF doing some work. And she shared with me that she's been doing a project with you all around mental health with your teachers.
Yes, I'm actually part of the working group too.
Yes, please tell me more about that and how, because she tried to explain it to me and I was
I'll
like,
try my best.
how does that make a difference?
If her explanation was not, I don't know if mine is any better. Well, we are partnering with Lyra, who is providing 12 sessions for free to all staff and teachers all in our region. And so what we're doing at a core group of us are really leaning into peer-to-peer support groups. So really encouraging, like as a regional staff member, really supporting our other regional staff members to like ask questions, even like visit the site, talk to someone at Lyra just to explore options of any mental health services and supports that they might be able to access. It's an amazing benefit as someone who like tried looking for a therapist 2 years ago through Kaiser. I think I wish this would have been an option back then. So I'm happy to share more, and I have the slide deck and all the things that would be helpful, but it's a big initiative for us, especially as we saw, like the pandemic really highlighted a lot of mental health issues and just inequities within our student population and our staff. And so this is an effort to support our staff further because if we're good, we can be there for our babies.
Yeah. Extended question. I really like the Lyra program. I know I have them as part of my husband's benefits. And I know that they recruited BIPOC therapists specifically. And they were one of the only EAP programs that were able to do that. So I was very excited to hear that you guys were partnering with them. The last thing is thinking about that particular project. I know you're not Judy, so don't feel like you need to present all this. Was there a change? I'm not for sure if retention was an issue.
Oh, I see.
Kind of what has been the outcome of that particular project?
So this is the first year that we are kicking that off. So the only data point I can like tell you right now is at one of our schools that we're piloting this, the peer-to-peer group support is at Kid Bridge, and 50% of our staff has already engaged and are looking whether to receive services or not. The peer-to-peer support group is to really encourage staff to just learn from other folks who are going through similar things and really accessing the information. I have other data points that I can't remember at the
That's
top of my
okay. I'm
head.
not asking you
I'm
for a
happy to
presentation.
share it with you. But we don't have the full scope of how this program has impacted our staff yet.
Yeah. So one thing I hope our new board will do is that we will hopefully I would like to have a learning community to talk about some of these issues, because our kids are mirroring the same kids everywhere. And I'm reading data that my current trustee friend had provided, Chris, around some of the pandemic and mental health and some of the long-term issues. And so it's not a one-time, just do this and everything will be okay. It's going to take us a while to get out of that.
Yes.
And because we were responding to a public health issue, that we know that this wasn't our fault, that it just happened to us. And now we just need to be responsible and take responsibility for ourselves and figure out how to respond in a very open way. So I'd love for us to have some type of learning circle to be able to share how we are supporting our staff, because kids aren't going to be well unless our staff are well.
Exactly. Yeah,
And that regardless of where you are, where you're classified or where you're credentialed, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you for sharing that. And Judy Lee is actually still with us.
Oh, good.
Yeah, in that capacity. So I will let her know that we need to connect further with all of you to share more information and really talk through how we can support our staff.
And for my colleagues, Julie Lee is a public health expert, and she is running a clinic out of UCSF around health and education and social determinants of health and how to really support the people on the front line.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. We do have one public comment from South Lake Nori.
In terms of the core subjects, the AP for all curriculum is what nearly all of our high schools at this point have adopted. Outside of that, there is, like when we talk about electives, those are largely teacher-created curriculum. So depending on the course really dictates the degree of teacher creativity over that curriculum. With that said, even with the AP for all curriculum, I mean, we definitely emphasize for teachers to make it their own. It's not just a canned curriculum, but there's definitely certain things that we're driving towards with that.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that's probably it. So we appreciate your presentation. Thank you for being here. We do want to visit, so we look forward to that.
You're all invited. Yeah.
Okay.
Now that we're open. Yeah, you're all invited. Please come by.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I'll tell Dr. Miley later. I'm
Okay.
sure he'll be thrilled.
Not tonight. It might be too late.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right. So now moving on to item 12.3, update from the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Partners. And thank you guys for being so patient.
Oh, yes, thank you. And I think Bonnie forgot to include me in that cake contest, so. I just wanted to kick this off, mostly Taja Henderson, our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion coach, alongside Pablo Aguilera, who won't be with us this evening. She's going to be presenting on the work that's being done so far. And the reason we wanted this presentation to be at this board meeting was actually for you, Trustee Thompson, and for you, Trustee Sarver, just knowing that this has been a cornerstone of the work that both of you have brought through to and through the district over many, many years. And wanted to make sure that before you left, even though I'm sure you'll be tuned in next week and incoming board members, that you do get a chance to hear where we are with the work, where we are with the plan for this year, because it has been so close to both of your hearts. And we thank you for that. So with no further ado, I will present Taja Henderson to present where we are with the equity and diversity and inclusion work.
Greetings, thank you. So Grace Lee Boggs, credited for her work with the Asian American movement. She says we need to discern who we are and expand our humanness and sacredness. That's how we change the world, which happens because we will be the change. I know those of us who are still here tonight truly believe that we will be the change. And I appreciate you for your perseverance and for being here. I indeed am Taja Henderson. And I am so thankful that I have a partner in this work, Pablo Aguilera, because there are many districts where they have only one person who is championing the work of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And Dr. Williams had the foresight to make sure that it was both Pablo and I continuing the work that we had started in this district when she created the space. And there are many districts that don't even have anyone in this space to champion the efforts of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Before I fully begin, I am going to just take a pause and do a land acknowledgement. As a Black woman, I hold on to the African saying of Sankofa. Sankofa means that I look back and I remember what my ancestors have been through to guide and lead my steps forward. As an non-Indigenous woman, I must honor the land and the people of the Ramatush Ohlone tribe, always remembering that it is their land and it is their tribal ancestry land that I live and work on. Always remembering that when I push forward equity, diversity, and inclusion practices and policies, that I have to remember that it is my responsibility to uplift all communities and make sure that I do not cause any harm. So I keep that and hold that intention. And I encourage you, as you move through your daily lives, how will you remember and honor the land that we are on and the Ramatush Ohlone people? I'll give you a quick rundown of what I'll present. Some of it will be about coherence and communication, and then I will do an equity update. And with that equity update, it will be about what's been going on, and then also to present to you some equity initiatives that are going to lead our work this year. So in terms of coherence and communication, when Dr. Williams created the space for Pablo and I, and I forgot a little bit of backstory about Pablo. So the last week I've been out dealing with my daughter who had COVID. And currently, Pablo has been able to avoid COVID, but he caught the flu. And so he has been on Zoom and everyone has been checking in with me like, Taja, Pablo's here, is he presenting? They're like, Pablo's here, is he presenting? And I told him, I was like, Pablo, get off Zoom and rest. And then he finally sent me a text message and he was like, the NyQuil kicked in. So he finally logged off Zoom. So thanks for letting me add that little piece in that I forgot. Just to give you some backstory, while right now it is truly only me doing this, but there are all of us doing this work. So the governance goal recognizes that equity requires strategic and sustainable action. In our work and our vision, we're saying that to enhance the district's goal of equity, we're striving to build brave spaces. And in these brave spaces, it's our responsibility to examine the root causes of all forms of racism in our district and in our schools. In order to do that, we are taking a multi-pronged approach. Again, this isn't the work of just one person. This is the work of our entire community. And for our entire community, that means all of the district office departments, that means all of the school sites and communities. And working together, our focus is on culturally and community affirming practices in order to improve student learning and outcomes. And I believe that's the ultimate goals within equity, is that we want to make sure that students are learning and that outcomes increase, especially after seeing our SBAC results. So then it highlights the need of this work. So let me talk to you a little bit about what's been going on. Since we started the work, we initiated district-wide equity, diversity, and inclusion councils. I believe these councils sit on every high school's campus. There is some level of a committee that is in operation. Alongside of that, we hold monthly gatherings with Dr. Williams, with Trustee Thompson, and with Trustee Stevenson. And with those meetings, the school representatives just come in and give a report about the initiatives that they are carrying on at their school sites. And we talk about challenges and then also do a lot of thought partnering in order to change practices and policies that happen at schools and then also across the district. We previously were meeting after work when everyone was tired, low energy levels. So we changed the practice up this year. And in changing the practice, we are going to have quarterly retreats. And actually there is a quarterly retreat that will be held tomorrow for this quarter, where we will call in again the superintendent, Trustee Stevenson. That means that we have one opening and we are going to talk about who would like to be the next trustee to come in into the space with us and into the community in order to deal with issues relating directly with equity, diversity, and inclusion. We launched the Affinity Group Fellowship, and you heard several people call in for the public comments in order to talk about the benefits of the affinity groups, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. We know that our district passed the resolution centering equity, in which we committed to the practice of continually examining itself to ensure that we remain an open and inclusive community. That was the commitment that our district made, the commitment to carry on this work. We have increased BIPOC leadership. With our efforts, you can see that there is an overall increase in BIPOC representation at all levels in our district. We've hired more BIPOC educators, more BIPOC teachers. We have more BIPOC school leaders. If you look at Kenyatta Middle College, if you look at the new hiring of the vice principal at EPAA, if you look at the principal at Woodside, so we know that we've got increased BIPOC representation, even with our superintendent. But that doesn't mean that the work is done, that we need to continually increase BIPOC representation to make sure that it meets the population of our students. And I'll talk about that more because that's some of our initiatives. These are the initiatives and they're embedded within the slides, so I'm just going to skip this one. One of our first initiatives carrying on is the use of affinity groups. When KIP made their presentation and they were talking about what they do for that 3% of students in order for them to feel supported and involved in their school, an affinity group is a safe, special place for those students to come together to talk about their experiences of what they have and what they truly need to create that space. In our district, we are also creating that in the use of affinity groups. So with affinity groups, we are building the capacity of educators to affirm and to celebrate our lived experiences. And the unique part is that all of this is built in to eradicate racism in our schools. So regardless of which affinity group, I'm just gonna go here, that educators take a part in, It's all about eradicating racism so that we can make sure that student learning is happening in culturally affirming ways and community sustainable ways in classes, and then also for educators themselves. So we have the affinity group spaces for both BIPOC educators and then also for white anti-racist groups. So you heard Chris and you heard Carolyn Coleman talking about the need for all of us to take space in working to eradicate racism. So it's not just the work of BIPOC educators, but it's also the work of our white co-conspirators or white allies in this work to understand how can we all collectively eradicate racism, which then creates the barriers where students often feel that they don't belong in schools, where implicit biases come in and it labels and categorizes students in a way which inhibits their ability to be successful in schools. Some of the overall benefits of these affinity groups is to increase morale and a sense of belonging and retention. You heard Jenny Ortiz talk about that increased sense of morale because the racial affinity groups are working at Woodside. And the other piece about the purpose of these affinity groups is that when building the capacity of educators to carry and to hold these spaces, you're also building the capacity of educators to do this work. This work is not easy. This work takes, it's a journey. This work takes skill. This work takes will. And by educators going through this fellowship and gaining this capacity, it lifts our entire community up. In terms of recruitment and retention, I'm just going to share a little bit of information. So BIPOC educators make up only about 38% of our teaching staff here in the district, whereas students make up 65%. Our certificated staff composition does not represent our collective student body. This phenomena didn't happen overnight. It has deep historical roots, but we all have a responsibility to close that racialized gap. And that is a goal that our board and our district has adopted, realizing that we need to find ways in order to close that racialized gap. So within our strategies, we do have that multi-pronged approach in order to close the racialized gap. So with that, we have the BIPOC student teacher pipeline. More BIPOC student teachers have been requesting to be placed intentionally with BIPOC cooperating teachers. The problem is, however, is that there are not enough current BIPOC cooperating teachers in order for the placements to exist or to happen. So we are going to work on building a pool of BIPOC cooperating teachers. We've been in communication with teachers within our district, BIPOC educators, who are saying that they are interested in having more strategies to be successful cooperating teachers. Often when the teacher preparation programs look for cooperating teachers, it's not intentional. So we are going to intentionally attract BIPOC educators in order to close that gap of cooperating teachers who are BIPOC, to make sure that BIPOC student teachers coming into our district have that mentorship, knowing that when BIPOC student teachers come in, or student teachers in general, they often get hired first before anyone else coming in. So this is one strategy in order to close that racialized gap between BIPOC educators and students, or to make sure that it represents. I'm going to come back to that one because I'm going to do everything for retention and then come back and talk about the cultural grad celebration, because Pablo and I had it set up that we were going to alternate so it wasn't one person talking the entire time. But since it's just me, I'm going to do all of the pieces that relate to retention and then go back to that piece. So with that, once we have BIPOC student teachers and BIPOC teachers working within our district, It's also important that we think about the way that our TIPS program, the teacher induction program, it presents its curriculum to be more culturally affirming and creating a space for BIPOC new teachers coming into our district to be seen, to be valued. Oftentimes, new teachers coming into our district, they feel like they don't have space to speak up. They feel like they don't have all of the necessary supports and tools when they come into the teacher induction program. So one thing that we are going to do is we are going to look at an asset model where when teachers come in, it's not about the deficit-based thinking about success for BIPOC students. It's not about putting the blame on the families, putting the blame on the community. It's about really looking to see what are things that we can change structurally in order to support all students. And so we've been working with Bonnie. The other part about this multi-pronged approach is that we have been building relationships with the departments in the district. So we've been working with Ed Services. We've been working with Human Resources. We are Student Services. And when we talk about coherence, it's also about communication and things that we can all do collectively, because we know that when we help the most more marginalized students, everyone will succeed. I think there's one more. Then here's another initiative relating to the BIPOC recruitment. Oftentimes, this is what I hear a lot. The reason why we don't have Black teachers per se at Carmont is because nobody completed the survey or nobody did the application on EdJoin. We're saying that's not good enough. That's not a good enough reason to say why we don't have BIPOC educators, because no one is going on to EdJoin and filling out the application. We need to be intentional. We need to be intentional about the partnerships we have with teacher preparation programs. We need to be intentional about where those programs are located at. We need to intentionally go out and recruit BIPOC educators to come into our district. So when we talk about some of our initiatives and our strategies, we are being very strategic about ways to increase the number of BIPOC educators in our district. Now I will go back and talk about the cultural grad celebrations. I think the best testament to the cultural grad celebrations are folks right here with us now. So for the last 20 years, our district has had a Black graduation ceremony. Previously, it was called the Black or Baccalaureate for Black students. It was initiated first by Debbie Moore Washington and Dorothy Burnside, right? That's how long it's been here for. Once they left the district, I stepped in and took it over. If you have attended one of the Black graduation celebrations, I want you to just give a head nod. You can put your hand up in the air as a testament to the joy and to the celebration of lived experiences for students who come from marginalized communities, especially for Black students. Black students often, survey after survey, say that they experience the highest amount of racialized trauma and the lowest scores or lowest academic performance in our district. And the cultural grad celebrations, it changes the narrative. The students have graduated from high school those 13 years. This is an accomplishment. It is something to be celebrated and something to be cherished. It visibilizes students who are often unseen in our communities. So our goal is to expand this. Our goal is not only to just have this for Black students in our district, but to make sure that all cultures are seen. And so in order to do this, we are going to create committees and give a blueprint of what's been done for the last 20 years with the Black grad in order to build up that community base and community celebration of academics and achievement. And the other part that's really interesting and unique for the Black grad, it's centered on culture. And it's centered on culturally affirming ways in which students have the opportunity to tell their story, where families are seen,
and the community is able to come together. So we are trying to enhance things that are already happening in our district through expanding the cultural grad celebrations. And I believe there are just two more. For professional development and a collab series, intentionally, we are trying to find ways to have some differentiated PD, especially for BIPOC staff. One example that I can bring to us is that we are going to have, USC is going to do, I think, their last workshop, which is titled Anti-Blackness in Our Schools. When the presentation about anti-Blackness in the schools happens, I feel that Black staff should have a separate space in order to have that conversation about what anti-Blackness looks like. And so when we are talking about collaborating with the professional development department, it is about trying to find new ways in order to support BIPOC staff as a way to keep retention. And then we're also looking at ways for sustainable self-care when we talk about racialized trauma and making sure that teachers are centered and teachers' needs are taken care of. And then just to go back to the first one that I started with when I talked about what's going on, is that we are continuing these leadership retreats with a retreat happening tomorrow where our focus is to make sure that we are aligned with our equity goals in talking about the coherence and communication. It provides that opportunity for sites, representatives to come together and to thought partner and to be strategic about the ways in which they are going to make sure that they have equitable practices and policies. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very informative presentation. I'm sure we have comments and questions. Shanice?
Thank you. I'm very excited to see this project. As a parent of a 6-month graduate of Menlo Atherton High School, hallelujah, that when I came to MA, actually my 8th grade year, and Chris was president, I came to the meeting where you all were deciding that East Palo Alto would be coming to MA. It wasn't the greatest meeting. Although all the administrators argued over us and said, we want East Palo Alto here, we didn't always have community members who wanted us at the school. So coming into this into the school, I realized, not growing up here, I couldn't believe it. And so I had hopes and love for Sequoia because I heard so many great things about it. But then I saw this other side. And actually started seeing it, not because of the principal, not because of the teachers, but just started to see some things that bothered me, particularly around inclusion, especially going to a non-segregated school, and also having to deal with those issues myself, being in the suburbs of Cincinnati. So when I heard about this, it actually, Simone and I have sat down and started to talk about how can students be more integrated into the school? How can they have more friends across different neighborhoods? How can their identity be cultivated, their cultural identity? How can we remove language like at risk, most vulnerable, marginalized, those kinds of terms that actually reinforces negativity in kids. So when I hear affirming, when I hear go from a positive perspective, I think it's really important. As far as like the staffing piece of it, it's important for kids to see others of all different levels doing great work. And we've heard it throughout all the graduations, no matter who you are, whether even talking to some of our new trustees, about their own culture and really wanting to see themselves or correct culture, things that are in the book. And so I am happy to see that this is happening for our community, especially after COVID, which was not only a medical condition, it also was systems responding to a public health, but there also was political polarization and conflict. And some cultures got really impacted a little bit more than others, which resulted in George Floyd and Asian hate. And so this calling to our district was really important because there is some historical issues, historical experiences. I always call it as like having graves with no stones on them to name what has happened, not to go back and say, you know, it didn't happen, but to really say, it happened, let's name it, let's move on, and let's be better people, better community, better educators, better teachers, whomever. So when I think about what you all are trying to do, it actually warms my heart when I hear that. And think that it's very important for students to know others see them and the power of being seen, the power of a voice, even as young people. And just wanted to thank you for that work. The last thing I wanted to ask a question about is, I hope y'all are including the counselors, and particularly bilingual, Spanish speaking therapists, given some of the safety issues that are happening, given some of the things that are happening in our environment, because it's not just in our school. We actually have seen a couple of violent things that have happened in Redwood City. And I'm looking at Carrie in San Carlos and in Redwood City. So I think what's happening in our schools or possibly happening is just a response to the environment that's around us as well. And so love for us to continue to think about our psychologists, our speech therapist, maybe I just heard job description, I don't know, counselors, so that we can better respond to those young people so that all our kids are safe. And we actually have some students who are dealing with stuff at home and you would never know in their AP kids. And they're taking these AP courses and they're dealing with stress. They're dealing with, how am I going to bring honor to my child, to my family? How am I going to continue my path to whatever college my family and I have identified? How am I going to keep my mental health together, show up every day? And so I think it's important that we think of also this as, how do we support the mental health of our students through affirming who they are? So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Stevenson. And Glenda is here with us, and the counseling, I believe, have the most BIPOC representation across our district. And so that is one area of growth and achievement, is the representation that happens with our counseling departments.
We do have a community comment, so I'm going to go to that and I'll come back to the trustees. Jeremy Ray.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you for letting me speak. And I'm actually here as a result of being recruited by a Black teacher who, unfortunately, I have to say is no longer with us because of the stress and weight of some of the things that happen in terms of equity. So I just wanted to make a comment on what equity means to me. And I think we have fantastic sentiments and efforts towards equity, yet we still in many ways operate within systems and structures that have already existed. And this places the mentally taxing burden of unpaid equity work on existing roles that are already pushed to the limit in attempts to get the work done without significant economic investment. And that reality leads to disappointments, resentments, stress, and lower retention of very qualified and genuine staff. For example, if we want to improve sales in an organization, to be successful, we would improve operational efficiency, the speed of how things get done, and look at objective metrics and data to change core systems and policies in the organization. And for our district, we all understand that funds aren't unlimited. So looking at those things and having accountability means saving money and time and increasing morale and creating new pathways for investment we couldn't have imagined before. So I believe we should create a new branch in our district populated by people who have fresh ideas, unique and diverse work experience, both inside and outside of the school system. And that group of people should have authority to change the structure of the school system apart, but equal to the traditional top level departments and roles in terms of power. And that would equate to more paid roles of authority and pairs the efforts of equity with necessary economic solutions for those who do the work. As long as our goals of equity are framed and set within these existing systems, delayed by the traditional operations, policies, and influence, and without that adequate investment, there's always going to be significant obstacles to implementing changes that lead to better outcomes for everyone. There's going to be difficulty in recruiting and retaining BIPOC staff and representing BIPOC communities, and paying for the work of equity and creating an environment where things get done quickly and efficiently is what attracts and retains talent. So, and also, as long as those roles remain limited within the district, we create the rarely discussed problem of pitting BIPOC staff against one another for those limited roles. We approach solutions from the limited perspective with fewer voices of diverse backgrounds when we actually need to expand the level of contribution and participation. For example, we wouldn't ask a salesperson to run the HR department or an accountant to design the marketing campaign or an HR person to manage the finances. So I'd like to see the district express that we value and want to invest in equity by paying more people in the district to do the work and then giving them true power and authority in the organizational hierarchy to recreate and transform the structure of our school system. This would then allow staff and students in our system the true meaning of equity, which is the ability to simply exist in their roles and identities without additional burdens so that they can be their full best self.
Thank you. Abby Corman.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. Tonight's agenda spoke to the importance of equity work in support of our students in so many ways. I really appreciate Diana Wilmot's presentation on our SBAC results and the commitment that I heard her make for our district about having a focused attention on equity and monitoring its progress. That aligns with what Chris Beatley-Hagler spoke earlier about governance goal 2 of the board from this last iteration of the board. Thank you, board members, particularly Trustee Sarver and Trustee Thompson. Thank you for your 13 years of commitment. Chris spoke earlier about governance goal 2 from this board about analyzing our systems in terms of equity. And Diana, I have a lot to say. Diana Wilmot's presentation spoke about equity for us in terms of our EL reclassified students in particular. And as many of you know, I'm an English teacher at Menlo Atherton, but I teach English language learners with SPED, which I learned are duly classified students. And I heard Trustee Stevenson, you asked about bilingual Spanish speaking therapists, and that's something that we would love. But I spoke to our mental health support specialist and she's understaffed. We need more mental health supports in general. And she has half the amount of space that she needs. And so I think my main point tonight, and I've saved all my comments for the end, even though I had something to say after each person's presentation, is I'm really trying to echo Jeremy's sentiments tonight about, I really appreciate our verbal commitments to equity, and I commend our district on everything we've done so far and Superintendent Williams' work. And I'm asking us, as Jeremy is and Taja is, and so many of us at our district are, to now move financially in that direction as well. What does it look like to change our systems and our structures? And I believe that that's our next step. And I'm going to ask us to focus on investing internally, as we have a lot of contracts and we have a growing number of district office staff. And I believe there's a way for us to be working together because we're in silos. something that's, this will be my last point, something that's quite frustrating to me. As this teacher in this classroom, I have English language learners, I have special education students, I have students who've suffered from the pandemic, as I really appreciate everything Trustee Stevenson said around mental health and how we need to take responsibility for it, even though it wasn't our fault. I want these students, this is one student in my classroom who needs our financial resources, investing in our current people to skill them up and really provide direct service to our students.
Cutting you off. I have to do it because I cut somebody else off today. So I have to do it. I'm so sorry, Abby. Really hard. Yes. Please, and Abby, send your last thought to us tomorrow. I'm so sorry to cut you off. Okay.
Okay, hopefully. Oh, it's working today. I'm so happy. Yeah, I would also like to agree with everyone else. I believe that equity and inclusion work is extremely important. And as a student who has experienced directly a lot of what we've been discussing, I would also like to address kind of the educator retention rate as well. I've seen a lot of my BIPOC educators walk out from stress and just from this overwhelming feeling of loneliness that I also feel in the classroom at times. And so kind of just helping them anticipate varying degrees of entitlement, I would also say is important. And I've faced that challenge coming to class every day throughout my school experience. And I would also kind of want to figure out a way to, by highlighting culture, affirming culture, we're also putting a spotlight on it and helping students feel like they're not being examined and pulled apart. And, there's not a flashlight, and it's an overhead light, and we're all looking on it on our papers together and just coming together in the classroom and not necessarily looking at the one BIPOC student in the classroom, at least going to Carlmont. It can be kind of hard at times. So yeah, but I would just like to say I also appreciate the work that's been done so far.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Okay, Ellen.
So I want to thank you for this presentation. It's very exciting to see concrete progress being made and new work structures and personnel put in place to formally do the work and move things forward. There's been comments about the talk of equity, and the talk of equity has been there for a long, long time before the 13 years ago that Chris and I came on this board. And what you showed us tonight was evidence of real structures and real work and real commitment and real resources going into making a difference. And to me, this is a time to really recognize that tension that we're always under of the recognition of urgency and the continuous dissatisfaction that there is so much work to be done and such a small sense of progress. And yet at this point, we're looking at concrete steps being put in place. And to me, what I take out of it is the need to have the patience combined with the sense of urgency to see that, yes, we are making headway. And yes, this work is taking us in a direction to make big differences. And we're seeing the places where we can measure our progress, showing progress, and also showing us how much more there is to do ahead. And so I think the main thing I want to focus on at this point is to acknowledge and appreciate and congratulate you and the team on the work that is being done and the way that we are moving forward, and to hope that I can help instill that sense of confidence that progress is going to continue and accelerate with the work continuing to be done. The right things are happening. And what's critical is that we remain committed to them. We continue to resource them. We've heard in some of the comments that there's much more need out there, and we want to continue to be considering how we can meet more and more of it and keep making that difference. But to me, I really, really appreciate this confirmation that the wheels are in motion and progress is being made and the good talk is being converted into the walk and the work. And I appreciate that very much. So thank you.
You. May I? Sure.
Chris?
Yes.
You're waiting for me to call on someone?
I actually will be brief
Start
and
talking,
have
so
just two things. I think Tasha indicated there's an opening for a board member serving with this group. I want to provide encouragement to new board members, Amy, Satvik, to board members who haven't had the chance in the past, to Carrie and to Rich, to participate with this group. From personal experience, I will tell you that it builds awareness of these issues in ways that are real and important and are learning for us. And the other wonderful thing is it's an incredibly, and this is a tribute to you and Pablo, it's an incredibly constructive environment. It's constructive and affirming. And so board members, I think, will go away, and Shanice knows this, with a sense of challenges in the district, but the commitment of people willing to work on this and the promise. So want to provide encouragement to the new board to participate, to vie for participation in this. The other is just to say thanks to Liz and to you, Tasha, for giving the presentation. You're right. I think both Alan and I are grateful that it comes as the last report and last agenda item for this meeting. So thank you.
Tasha, that actually reminds me of something with Chris's comments. We had talked before at a board meeting that it's such an important committee. It really should be the rotation of board members, right? Because I feel that unless you think that's not a good fit, it's something you guys can think about. Because, so I've done a lot of personal training, but I don't know as a group that we've had really profound training, but being part of the work you're doing would be profound training for us all. So anyway, just something to think about.
Yes, I would. So part of the work also is being in community and having relationships. So rather than it being something like a quarterly rotation, I could see a rotation being like a year commitment and then moving someone, right? So like if we had year commitments to fully understand what's happening, because you can't get it in just a 3-hour session.
Right.
That it takes time. So
And also a rotation could be disruptive. I get that with some groups. You want to have that consistency and people to really get to know each other.
And we do ask for the site representatives to do a 2-year commitment. Coming in. So we do have rotation as well.
Because hopefully they told you, I really want to go. I want to really be a part of it. When can I be a part of it? So
I'll reach out.
But there's 5 new board members and 2 of our new 5 board members, 2 new ones. We'll talk together. We'll all want to be on it.
How often and for how long do you guys meet?
We moved it to a quarterly system. So it's once every quarter and it's for 3 hours from 9 to 12.
So 3 or 4 times a year?
Yes. 4 times.
4 times a year.
I'd like to just applaud both you and Pablo for your work. This is bold work and it takes courage to continue the course. You started this work some years ago. Upon my arrival, different folk came and said, Dr. Williams, we need someone to lead equity. We need a director. Initially, it was a director. And so as I observed both you and Pablo, and then also your heart, your commitment, your knowledge to children, to kids, to staff, to the work, ideally, it was the 2 of you who were naturally selected to lead this charge. And I do know how both of you have wrestled with the work this year in a good space. You have created a space for individuals to come in. You have pushed, you have challenged in the right way. And I just want to say publicly that I appreciate you staying the course with this critical work and not allowing naysayers to distract you, but continuing to focus on what is right for kids and what is right for the district. That's going to make me transition to trustee Samantha. What I want to say is that you broke my heart this evening. You enlightened me, but you also broke my heart. When I hear a student say that they are challenged in a classroom and they have had to deal with what I call potential barriers to success and find ways to navigate through our instructional program, not necessarily in partnership, but with support possibly from home, because I do know you, possibly from, and I know you have a strong support system, but just being in an environment where you're not feeling connected, are not feeling seen and not feeling heard, and still showing up every day and achieving beyond expectation. On one end is great, and on another end, it reminds us of where we have much work to do. And so I commend you, Samantha, and on behalf of Sequoia Union High School District, I formally apologize to you and each and every student who comes to school every day and they feel disconnected, unseen, and unheard, because that means we have not done our job well. And so for that, it has outlined that this equity work, while sometimes it may get messy, sometimes folks don't agree with it. We have different perceptions and ideas about what it is and what it's to do. We are not finished until each and every individual in this district has been elevated in community with respect and also great regard for the contributions that they make to our great district. And so for that, this evening, I am proud, conflicted, saddened, but also hopeful. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? That's very well said. Thank you for being here, and thank you for waiting around for such a while. Okay, so two items have been eliminated from our agenda. Thank you. Who did that? Chris? Yes. So
Are we gonna give closing comments?
I think closing, we're done except for they might want to do closing comments.
I do.
Okay.
I just want to let you all know I went to the CSBA conference.
Yes.
Myself and Dr. Williams. Sorry, other folks couldn't go. I did see Amy.
Amy's there.
Amy, hey. But she was representing BRSSD though. So
But she was probably learning about
I'll
high
take
school
her as an
stuff.
honorary SUHSD person starting on Friday. So I just wanted to give you all an idea of the CSBA conference. The first year I went, it was a lot of fun hanging out with everyone. I was in a whirlwind, didn't know anything. All these people talking to me. I was like overwhelmed. This time I kind of knew where the bathroom was. I knew where the rooms were, all that kind of stuff. So I felt a little bit more comfortable as an introverted self. And so I was able, and people don't believe me, but I am, but I went to all these workshops and I just didn't do what was interesting to me or fun. I actually went to kind of what I think we need to grow as a governance team, to get ideas from other people. So I sent you all this information. I sent it to the new board members as well. There are these workshops called rounds, two-way communication. It is a tool that's used to, instead of continue to do all the Bonnie stuff, the surveys, the focus groups, all that kind of stuff. Yes. All right. But two-round communication is a particular process where you go deeper versus wide around an issue. And each board member interview, I'm so excited, y'all just don't know. Y'all might have to, I'm gonna cut out, don't flip the lights. Let me hurry up. So you go around and you ask questions. And you all take 2 people or 3 people, superintendent, blah, 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 right? And then what you do, and you ask what the problem is, and you ask what the solution is, not what your solution is, what their solution is. And you come back, and as part of our report out, you give the information as part of a trustee. And it really was around community leadership and hearing from people more deeply versus why. It was a powerful, powerful thing. And that the group of their board did this around facilities and some other things. They use it as part of the student advisory committee, the parent advisory committee, and pairing people together. And they find that it has transformed their communication. It has flipped their communication. They report it out like the next day after their board meeting, so the community gets it as well. And it's just a really powerful tool. It's almost like a shortened key informant interview if you were doing research. The other thing I went to was learnings from special education settlements. That was fun. So it was great. I know I'm the only one in the room, but it was awesome. It was a very much, I'm into reflection, so it was great. I went to the president's workshop, not saying I'm going to be the president, but I wanted to know what what president do, because I've had, I've been shepherd under Alan during the craziest time of the board and just watch him, calm, cool, collect, and keep us civil. And then I saw Carrie facilitate the most efficient meeting, getting us out on time. So I wanted to know what else everybody else is doing. And so that was a fantastic time. Learned a lot about leadership and the board and the presidents and nuances of the bylaws and all this kind of stuff. So I'm excited about that. But many workshops had governance team presentations on how to build trust, working together as one voice for community with the superintendent, being the face of the district and the board being the voice of the community. So it was really, really good. And so nobody here, but y'all can take my little quote that I took from them. Here, Dr. Williams. So there's a quote that came out of the president's workshop. I'm not going to read it. Y'all read it for yourselves, maybe tape it to your thing, whatever you want.
Long.
It's long. I know. I was like, it's early childhood. Why think about governance, everyone else's children? And I kind of was thinking about what's been happening in our community. Each of us come to care about everyone else's children. We must recognize that the welfare of our children and grandchildren is ultimately linked to the welfare of all people's children. After all, when one of our children needs a life-saving surgery, someone else's child will perform it. If one children is threatened or harmed by violence, someone else's child will be responsible for the violent act. The good life for our children can be secure for all others' children. I almost cried when I saw that, y'all. Anyhow, I'm hurrying up. So want to let y'all know that I visited Gateway. It was a very enlightening experience. I actually told President Dubois, glad we are working together to figure out what's going to be best for our kids. There's some elements there that I think we can continue and some elements that I think we can enhance. But I went also to the juvenile hall, talked to students there taking college courses, real rehabilitation and opportunity, and seeing their opportunity. They're elevating the student voices at Gateway as well as Hillcrest Juvenile Hall, where they're making decisions and coordinating things. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a student from Gateway on our student advisory council? I'm looking at, oh, they gone. So I'm looking at you. So I thought.
Or Redwood, which I've only been saying that for 11 years.
Yeah, I agree. And then I talked to 2 parents. One said praises to Sean. He's gone. Oh, it's not just one in the wall. Okay. Let me tell you what they said about you, Sean.
See, it was worth waiting.
I know. See, I'm going to bring the house down. This person talks about that their student was IBS, and also see how particularly Sean Priest and the staff there invite all students to be part of the school. and feels no difference, and it feels like an inclusive school. I was like, I didn't even ask for that, Sean. I talked to another parent from Carmont, and I never hear anything about special ed. I love y'all, but I worked at special ed. Sometimes y'all you hear about is problems, but I heard something good this time. That Carmont staff and psychologists in special education, they facilitated a supportive IEP 504 plan. I'm not going to tell you which one, so y'all don't know who the family is. And was really pleased as a new family to the school that it made a difference. I also emailed 2 students at Carmont, read in the Daily Journal, a student wrote an article from our school, and they talked about a different approach to Don't Do Drugs by Grace Wu, November 19th, featured in the Daily Journal, a different approach, and featured another student, Grace Wu, who started an organization, by Sharice Wu, and it's called Youth Drug and Addiction Education Initiative. I'm looking at Elizabeth. And she's training other peers to go out and talk about fentanyl education, because what she said in an article, I didn't know it was a problem till it came to my school. And I think we need to know before it hits our door that there's a problem there. So I just wanted to honor their leadership, and just really appreciate student leadership and civic action of students. As a person who has a child who got up one day and led a protest without my permission, it's wonderful what our kids can do when they get a little bit of bothersome and they get agitated in a good way. They can do all things. So thank you all.
Thank you. Ellen?
So I want to go out the way I usually do. For future agenda items, I would like to congratulate the 2 new board members who will be certified tomorrow and who will join the board and become active on Friday. I think this evening was a good reminder of what a great environment this is and how much work there is to do. And I don't think you'll be bored up here. I look forward to your work on behalf of the district and keeping things moving forward. I've had a chance to go to a handful of different performing arts events at this time of the year. And I did want to comment in particular about the production of Beauty and the Beast that I saw at Sequoia. It was, to me, a giant leap forward in the scope of what the performing arts program at Sequoia is undertaking. There was a visionary decision by the drama teacher based on the huge number of students that came to try out for that performance to bring on 2 full casts and run them alternating throughout the program. And this is a huge production with amazing chorus and choreography work. The spoken parts, the lead performers were strong throughout. The crew is included as a truly major part of the production. And the enthusiasm from the audience and from the members of that production team from every corner of the building was the strongest I've ever seen in Carrington Hall. It was an inspirational night. It's running again this weekend. I strongly recommend it to anybody in this room or out there in the audience who's still listening. Get there for a production. And it doesn't matter whether it's the Rose or the Mirror cast that you attend. You're going to be well entertained and deeply, deeply impressed. It was great. The other one I'll mention, my first private citizen opportunity. Tomorrow is, I'm going to be attending the Carmont High School symphonic band and symphony orchestra performance. And as you know, I have always tried to be very interested and fair-handed and involved in the arts and athletics at all of our schools. But I've had a long and deep connection with the Carmont program, and there is a particular spot in my heart for the symphony orchestra there that was established during the time that I was the parent chair of the booster organization. And that group, year in and year out at their concerts, sounds astoundingly like walking into Davies Hall and hearing the San Francisco Symphony Orchestra. So last I saw, there are still tickets available. I would strongly recommend that tomorrow evening as an opportunity to truly be blown away by the professionalism that the students in our district can achieve, and just the beauty of the music, the beauty of the environment, the pride of the program. It's just tremendous. So I am looking forward to it deeply, and I hope that many others will get a chance to go in and enjoy that as well. And I'll let that be my last words.
So a few people on this side of the room have told me that we're past 10 and I should get permission to go longer. I was willing to go longer. I'm okay, but I should ask other people and not make the decision by myself. 5 minutes? Rich, what do you say? Oh, I'm going to save time tonight. I'm not going to say a thing. Chris, do you want to say something? No? So maybe we're done. I won't. It's Rich. I'm not going to ask if he wants to say anything.
Well, wait until we leave the room to do that. All right. Hey, it's been fun. Thank you very much. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, wow. Is there a set? Oh my, you're too fast. Okay. Goodbye.
I need to sign things. Let me